tale kicks off with Theo staring back at his past, convinced his life was always doomed to feel this miserable. He'd rather have the world erase him than ever face another day, because part of him wishes he'd never been born at all. Right up until that moment, the story yanks us back to his days inside the unit. Captain Bram roars Theo's name at the top of his lungs, demanding to know how long it takes to haul water, then lashes out, screaming at him to stop messing around. Theo hauls 2 heavy buckets, rushes up to Captain Bram, and blurts out an apology, then promises he'll bring it back right away. But Bram isn't satisfied. He snarls menacingly as he closes in. Bram suddenly hammers a brutal kick into Theo's side, barks that he's late, and Theo rockets away with a sharp cry. Then he stares in horror as the water splashes and spills across the ground. Bram towers over him, screaming that he's nothing but useless trash who can't even carry a cup of water. Theo's terrified, pinned to the ground, and pouring out apologies nonstop. He offered to dash back and grab more right away. Back at the well, Theo hauls up another brutal, heavy bucket, straight up by hand. He grumbles under his breath, saying he could have yanked the water with magic in seconds, furious that they're making him do this pointless physical work instead. As he stares up at those brutal fortress walls, dread claws at him. How much longer can this hell last? And he knows the exact moment that kicked his whole life off the cliff. In a flashback to when Theo first joined the unit, he storms into a tent with a torch and stops dead, because Captain Bram is straddling a female knight and pinning her in place as she thrashes. Bram snaps at her to stop squirming and grins that he's about to make her feel good. Theo blurts his captain's name in pure shock, because he just watched Bram viciously assault a comrade. The story slams into a courtroom, where the judge roars that attacking a comrade is unforgivable, locks eyes with Theo, and condemns him to death. Theo screams at them to stop, begging like crazy, insisting he just kept it on repeat. He's only been watching, and Theo knows Captain Bram is the one who did it. Then a guard snaps, "Shut up." Bram just stands there, smug as ever, and laughs while Theo tries to shove his own sins onto someone else. Then a court official slams the final seal on Theo's fate, announcing they've got testimony proving Theo is the one who committed the crime. In the courtroom, Theo freezes in disbelief as he blurts Ferris' name, and the story hits hard. Turns out the victim's own testimony was the final nail, sealing his fate for good. Theo can't wrap her head around why she picked him as the culprit, but the moment his guilt is locked in, Bram bursts into action, snatches up his petition, and faces the court head-on. With a steel sword in hand, he swore to take the blame for the rookie's outrageous mess, and vowed to reform him if they'd only let him guard Theo for life. The higher-ups, terrified of a scandal staining the knight's name, finally nodded and approved the deal. 4 brutal years passed, and Theo had effectively been turned into Bram's full-on slave. He tells Bram that all this time, it wasn't just cooking, laundry, and cleaning. He was also his stress toy to smash and vent on, and he admits there were days when his spirit felt like it would snap in two. He manages to steal one tiny breath of peace while cooking, because this is the only thing he genuinely enjoys, then tastes his soup, realizes it's seasoned with shoyu, shrugs at the saltiness, and decides he'll head to the market to grab more. He takes another sip and realizes, shockingly, it's not bad at all. Suddenly, Bram shows up out of nowhere, dumps his drink straight into the stew, and wrecks the whole dinner. Then he barrels up to Theo, demanding how long this is going to take, like dinner's already late. Theo's dinner night crashes into chaos. He panics, blurts out an apology to Captain Bram, and promises he'll get the plating done immediately. Bram doesn't care about food at all. He yanks the pot down, splashes scalding stew across the floor, and roars that they don't need that junk, then slams Theo with idiot. Then he whips around to face the rest of the squad, and Bram slams the news. His squad is moving out tomorrow, ready to hunt down and exterminate that monster. The soldiers huddled and pieced it together. Once those massive footprints showed up near the eastern village, a fresh request came in, the threat stamped as rank B, and then someone threw out the real problem. Adventurers are already rushing in to intercept it. Hearing that, Bram snaps. He storms forward and demands that, for their knightly honor, the credit belongs to the Bram squad. Then he kicks Theo again, screaming that he's an idiot for wasting time taste testing when they should be gearing up for the mission. Bram keeps hammering Theo with savage punches, screaming that it's guys like him who poison the squad's morale, while paranoia gnaws at him, because those cursed adventurers might swoop in and steal all the credit for the job. He slams another kick into Theo, screaming that every bit of this is his fault. Behind the chaos, Bram roars at his men to lock in their focus, because it's them, no matter what, who are going to crush those monsters. Theo drops to the ground, blood slicking the dirt, and he just mutters a curse through clenched teeth. Later, the squad pushes deeper into the forest, and one soldier loudly swears he'll make a name for himself on this mission, while his buddy just sneers that he'd get wiped out in seconds. The cocky soldier bragged that his secret sword would end the enemy in a single strike, and his friend just laughed because he'd been wasting his time training on scarecrows. As they march, the narration points out how Lystria is peaceful as can be. Conflict is so rare that adventurers usually don't even get involved unless something unexpected pops up. While everyone else is freaking out because they finally get real action, Theo drags a huge, heavy pack and quietly decides that if the world stays peaceful, that's the best possible outcome. As the squad pushes forward, Theo spots something chilling on the ground. He crouches, mutters under his breath, and realizes those footprints are way too massive to belong to any normal creature. He starts sweating, trying to figure out what kind of monster could leave tracks like that in the first place. Meanwhile, the other soldiers are so out of it they don't even clock the huge shadow looming over them. Then they go, is that cloud cover? Like rain is the only thing they should fear, while Theo whips his head up in pure horror and knows, instantly, it's absolutely not a cloud. A colossal dragon drops out of the sky right in front of them, instantly proving Theo's worst nightmare is real. They make it crystal clear, this isn't just some beast, it's a full-on dragon, a ridiculously deadly monster, stamped as at least a ring. Chaos explodes on the spot, soldiers shriek in pure terror and sprint for their lives, while Captain Bram tries to play tough at first, barking at his men to stop acting like idiots and hold their formation. The moment that dragon roars and clamps its jaws right near Bram, his courage vanishes on the spot. His face contorts with terror, and he snaps around with a furious 180, screaming at the driver to get the carriage moving right now while barking orders for a full retreat. Braham lunges onto the fleeing carriage, while Theo sprints right beside it, clawing his way forward so he won't get left in the dust. Theo shouts, practically pleading, "Let me ride the carriage too." Bram leans in and studies him with a twisted, malicious grin, convinced this is finally his perfect opening to cut loose ends for good. He ends it by taunting Theo, barking that his timing is absolutely perfect. Then Theo lunges his hand out, begging the captain as hard as he can. Bram snaps a violent kick straight into his face, and the impact blasts Theo backward, straight toward the monster. As the carriage rockets towards safety, Bram yells over his shoulder, "Make your pointless life worth something, be the decoy." Abandoned in the dirt, Theo tilts his chin and stares straight up into the beast's open jaws. He can't stop wondering if this is where he dies, but some part of him is weirdly calm about it, like, what difference does it make? Because with a life this miserable, maybe ending it here just fits. A dragon lunges to gobble him up, then, right as its jaws snap shut, a blade whips in out of nowhere, and a crushing strike smashes into the attack inches from Theo's face, saving him at the last second. The moment the blade bites down, the whole scene erupts into violence. One brutal strike rips the massive dragon apart, and blood splashes everywhere as the beast is cut down in an instant. Towering over the gigantic corpse, the silver-haired girl stays ice-calm and declares, "It's over." Theo just freezes, staring at her in total shock. His brain is still trying to process how she knocked her dragon down with one brutal blow. He locks eyes with her, and the past slams back. Those rumors of a woman with white-silver hair and unreal beauty suddenly click into place. The legendary Silver Princess, Ray Silverhorn, straight out of legend and shining like trouble. Theo's sweat explodes as he finally realizes it, the adventurer everyone's been whispering about, the one who treats S-rank monsters like they're nothing. Ray whips around and asks if he's hurt, and Theo stammers out a thank you, then Ray cuts him off without even blinking. She blurts out that she never saved him on purpose. The dragon was her target from the start. Then she admits she followed a job way out to the west, but it slipped free, and she's been hunting it all the way back here. Suddenly, her stomach lets out a brutal growl, and Ray whips his gaze away, mortified, then blurts to Theo that she hates this polite speech. So Theo tells her to just call, then he asks if she's feeling unwell, only to catch on fast, realize what that noise really meant, and blurt out, "Are you hungry?" Ray finally cracks. She's been chasing that dragon for a full week, barely eating or drinking a thing. Theo's horrified. He blurts out what kind of stomach she has to stomach a week like that, then scrambles to explain that most adventurers don't do the hard stuff. They just snag the scales and claws. But Ray's already locked onto that dragon meat, staring like it's calling her. Then Theo panics and blurts, "Wait." He explains this isn't just meat. Magical beasts pack the magic right in their flesh, so you can't chow down unless you purify it with holy water first. Ray just shoots the question, so holy water is all it takes to make it edible. She yanks out an ornate glass bottle and challenges them to let her use it. Theo's eyes nearly burst out of his skull. This supreme holy water is unreal. He bursts into full fanboy mode, yelling that the craftsmanship is the real deal, and swears even that empty bottle is worth a fortune. Ray just watches him nerd out, then blurts, "So does this mean we finally get to eat?" Theo snaps out of it, blurts out an apology for the wait, and promises that with water this high grade, he can start cooking right away. Ray locks eyes with Theo, her hopeful gaze blazing, and asks if he'll take over the cooking. Then she blurts out that she's never even touched housework in her entire life. Theo reels from it, thinking he'd love to make her do it if she could, but when he sees her helpless, he backs down. Then he flashes a smile and tells her, "I'll handle it," saying it's just a habit drilled into him from his days with the knights. Ray offers to foot the bill for his labor because she isn't lifting a finger. But Theo panics and pushes the cash away, reminding her, right then, that she's the one who literally saved his life, so there's no way he's charging her. Ray blurts that she wants to thank him somehow, but Theo refuses to back down. Then he gets to work on the giant dragon corpse, and once he tries the knife, he realizes it won't even bite unless he drags it straight along the cuts Ray already carved. He stares in awe at those dragon scales, shocked at how they refuse to break. Then he starts wondering what kind of brutal power Ray must have packed to slice through something this unyielding with just one savage strike. With one last brutal shove, that massive chunk of meat rips free. Theo wipes the sweat off his brow and shouts that he nailed the piece, clutching the bottle of supreme holy water like it's a miracle, then tells Ray, "I'm pouring this over the meat." The moment the liquid splashes onto the dragon's flesh, it hisses and steams, tearing away the deadly magic energy. Once the chaos finally dies down, Theo grins so hard it lights up the room and declares the purification is done. Then Ray, who's been starving the entire time, pops up instantly and blurts out if she can finally eat now. Theo snaps into full chef mode, talks her through every step as he works. First he tells her to light the fire in the pit, then he loads the meat up with spices and herbs, and finally he smothers it under hot stones. He tells her they've got to wait a bit longer, then slaps the whole setup under thick, big leaves to lock the heat in. Ray just watches, mouth open, genuinely impressed, and tells him he's crazy good at this. Theo's face falls as he finally admits he's been doing this exact kind of work in the Knight's Order for ages, and now he can't deny it. His glorified servant role has truly sunk in. Right then, a carriage rumbles down the road and snaps their attention. Theo realizes, he'd spotted that thing earlier. Ray snaps around and asks if the folks riding in that carriage are his comrades. Theo freezes cold, and those words slam into him like a punch. He confirms that Bram and the others are truly his comrades, but the color drains from his face like a switch flipped, because he's already thinking about having to slip back to the Night Order after this meal. The crushing weight of facing his abusers back home pins Ray down, and when he blurts his own name, it's like he slams a door on that spiral and snaps back. Ray crowds in so close it smashes his personal space. Then she stares at his face and says he looks like he's suffering. She reaches out and softly presses her fingers to the bruise on his cheek, clocking that it wasn't from some monster attack. Then she asks if something went down between him and his comrades. Theo jerks back on instinct, defensive panic in his eyes, and blurts that it's nothing at all. Ray pulls back right away, calming him down and saying it's totally fine if he doesn't want to talk about it. Then she adds that she genuinely respects people with abilities she doesn't have. Theo locks eyes with her, lets out what she's really feeling, and tells her she respects him, because he's got gifts she can't explain, so Theo finally cracks and opens up about his past. He tells Ray, "If you start listening to my story and it ever drags, just stop me, no mercy." After spilling every brutal detail of his betrayal and abuse, he drops his gaze and asks her, "So, are you disillusioned yet?" Ray flashes a gentle smile and shuts him down with a soft no, then thanks him anyway, telling him he's truly amazing. Theo's completely stunned she actually listened, but Ray keeps going. Talking about the past takes real courage. Theo's eyes start to sting, because the moment she listens, it's like a gigantic weight finally snaps off his chest, even though his world hasn't changed at all. He wipes away his tears and finally admits to himself that maybe all he needed was someone to listen. Then he steals his resolve, darts to a new topic, and declares that the meat should be ready now. The pot's steaming like it's alive, perfectly and hot as hell. Theo shouts that the timing is spot on, and Ray grins as he says it smells amazing. Theo grabs a quick sample, checks the quality on the spot, and instantly knows it feels right. Ray laughs and says he must have tasted it to test for poison, but Theo shuts it down. This is strictly a taste test. Theo slaps the food down and tells her he'll never serve trash to the person saving his life. Then he pushes her to eat. Ray locks eyes on that glistening meat, totally mesmerized, and then says she can tell it's gonna be delicious just by staring at it. Theo points out that the presentation is part of the flavor, and Ray shoots him a polite thank you before diving straight into the meal. Ray takes one bite, and it's like he's soaring straight to heaven. She blushes hard, absolutely stunned by how good it is. She can't stop rambling about how insanely hard it is to believe dragon meat could taste this unbelievably good. She breaks down how the cooking cranked up the umami and then praises the presentation, then flat out says she's convinced now. Theo stares at her, totally thrown by what she just meant. Ray locks her gaze onto him, dead serious, and says, "You," without even blinking. Then she cuts in, "I want." Theo gets hit with the wild declaration. His brain seizes up on the spot, and the meat on his fork tumbles straight to the ground. Theo totally misreads her words and blurts out stammering questions. What does she mean, wanting him? Ray just barrels past his confusion and shoves food into his hands while she explains it plainly. She can't do housework, so she wants to hand her home over to him. She casually tosses the offer like it's nothing, 100,000 gold a month. Theo snaps and starts yelling that it's way too much money. Then Ray totally misreads the outburst, thinks he's insulted by the low offer, and immediately says, "Tell me what you need, I'll pay more." Theo cuts through the negotiation with a sharp, serious tone, making it clear to her, even if he goes back to the Knights, there's no room left for him anymore. Ray lifts her hand toward him, flashes a warm smile and promises, "I'll be your home, somewhere you can belong." Theo reels back, blurts out a shaky, "Thank you," but even then he can't bring himself to move. Ray catches the hesitation, snaps into panic, and screams that if it isn't enough, she'll toss him more. Then Theo yells back, "Money's not the point." Theo shoves her back like he's trying to save her, screaming that his whole heartbreaking past might be a lie. Then he grabs her attention and hammers the question, what would she do if he's actually a bad person? Because in his mind, trusting him is just impossible. Ray stays cool and shuts him down on the spot. She says she can tell when people are lying, then she raises a finger. They kept going, saying only a real monster could never cook something this dangerously delicious. That's her special gift. Ray finally opens up to him in the quiet forest, telling him that hearing his story helped her see just how brutal things have been, and she straight up admits she can't help feeling sorry for him. But she makes it crystal clear, she still needs what he can offer, and then she hits him with the blunt truth, saying the choice is on him. Theo says choose again, and Ray nods, insisting it's best if he picks her. As Theo just stands there, letting the shock of getting paid 100,000 gold a month for housework sink in, Ray starts sweating like crazy. He's convinced the deal is way too good, and he can't shake the fear that Theo's falling for a scam. Ray starts to ask what he plans to do, but Theo slams into her question, shouting that he's taking her up on that offer, no hesitation. In his mind, he basically gives in, telling himself his life was done either way, so now he'll spend every last breath for her. Ray lights up with a smile, blurts out that she's thrilled, and reintroduces herself the right way, Ray Silverhorn. Theo steps forward and introduces himself, plain and simple, just Theo, then seals the whole deal with a hard handshake. Later, they finally reach a building, and when Theo spots it, his jaw drops as he gapes around, then blurts, "Where on earth is this?" Ray shrugs and says, "My house." But the second they step inside, it's a full-on disaster zone. Trash and junk are heaped everywhere like a landfill that swallowed the place whole. Theo gapes in horror, sputtering, "Is this really a house?" Ray just turns his head and whistles like an angel, like, "Hey, didn't she flat out tell him she can't do housework?" And then it hits Theo like a punch. Even at 100,000 gold a month, he might have lowballed himself. Before the sun is even fully up, Theo is already elbow-deep in grime, scrubbing that filthy house like his life depends on it. He wipes the sweat off his forehead, steps back to take it all in, and grins as he announces that, for now, the kitchen is finally usable again. Ray bursts into the room with a huge yawn, rubs the sleep from her eyes, and asks Theo if he's been up all night cleaning. Theo grins and says that now he's hired, he's gotta work right to earn his keep, while Ray just stares, totally baffled by the whole idea of work. She's working, then her eyes finally snap to the room, and she screams in shock because the whole place is sparkling spotless. Theo just deadpans that she's got a slow read on things, since she's been standing there for a full minute. Theo decides they've earned a breather and pushes, "Let's grab some tea." He peers into the jar of tea leaves, grumbling under his breath that they're still good to use. As they drop into their seats with their cups in hand, Ray can't help but wonder about his past, and right away, she presses him, asking why he chose to join the Knights in the first place. Theo spills his past. When he was just a kid, monsters ripped his parents away. Then he shoots in the truth that he was born in a remote village. And out there in the countryside, this kind of thing happens all the time, so it's no big shock at all. He remembers how the villagers helped him back on his feet at first, but as the days dragged on, they started feeling like strangers in his own world. Maybe it was because he was just a kid, yet the way everyone tiptoed around him only made the awkwardness impossible to escape. He tells her, "That's exactly how I got forced to leave the village." He tells them his parents vanished, but not before they tucked away some savings. So he grabbed that money, tossed his old life aside, and enrolled in the Night Academy, chasing a brand new destiny. Theo shrugs off the weight of it all, laughing like it's nothing, and admits that for a while he even toyed with the idea of avenging his parents, something he would have sworn he'd never do. He shoots Ray a gentle look and admits through all the chaos that he's truly grateful she saved him, trying to wave off any pity, but Ray cuts in before he can finish. She flashes him a warm smile, calls his name, and without a single extra word, thanks him for coming to her place. Theo and Ray are striding through the chaotic city market, and people can't stop staring at them. The crowd starts whispering the second they spot the famous Silver Princess, Ray Silverhorn, jaw-dropped at her beauty, then every eye snaps to Theo with sharp suspicion. She can't help but wonder who that guy walking right beside her even is. Theo can't shake the pressure, he thinks. Ray brought me here to report on the dragon and show me the ropes. And the scorching weight of everyone's stares actually hurts. Theo's nervous apology slips out as he realizes being next to him is pulling even more eyes than usual. He brings it up, then says she's seriously famous, while Ray keeps his cool, swats it off, and tells him, nah, it's nothing, she's just an S rank. But Theo knows better, because even climbing to A rank demands feats so huge they practically earn a royal letter of commendation, and that's exactly the level Ray, an S rank adventurer, is playing on. Is so rare it might only show up once in every 10,000 people. Theo proclaims, loud and proud, that she's a real national treasure. Ray stares at him, totally thrown off, and blurts, wait, what do you mean by national treasure? Theo clocks how intense he's being, blurts never mind, and drops the whole thing like it's too hot to handle. Right then they burst up to a huge building, its sign blazing that this was the Adventurers Guild. Theo bursts in and announces they've arrived, right as his mind flashes back to his night days, where his old unit, especially Captain Bram, always sneered at adventurers and stayed locked in constant conflict. But the moment Ray steps inside the guild, everything flips, cheers explode through the room, adventurers swarm her like magnets, shouting welcome back and gushing about her looks, and Ray just stands there with a lightly annoyed expression, like she's trying to tune out the whole riot of attention. While the crowd is still screaming her name, Theo leans in and asks Ray if she's really sure about this chaos. Ray just shrugs like she always does. Ray finally tunes out the noise and makes it to the reception desk, where a female staffer greets her and leans in to ask what brings her here. Ray doesn't waste a second. She tells the truth straight to the point, says the job is done, and demands her reward. The receptionist flips through the paperwork for the dragon-slaying quest, then fires off one question: does Ray have the materials to back it up? Ray just blurts that she'll pull it out right now, and raises a tiny box like it's the answer to everything. Suddenly, thud thud, a colossal dragon's head rips out of nowhere and slams onto the counter. The receptionist freezes, eyes wide, as she stares at the severed head, confirming for real that it's not a trick. Theo stares at the reaction, and the moment flies back to yesterday, when he watched Ray's magic item box gulp down the entire dragon corpse like it was nothing, shredding his brain back then too, and somehow still blowing him away right now. Ray blurts out that she's got the dragon's body to turn in too, and the receptionist instantly panics. The receptionist panics and orders her to wait, swearing the guild hall is totally fine, and that a team will come later to pick up the corpse. Ray blurts, can't I just summon it right here? And the receptionist shuts her down instantly. Then Theo just stands there, picturing the total catastrophe of Ray unleashing a massive dragon in that tiny room. It would rip the building apart, so they move straight to business. The receptionist slams 3 heavy bags of gold on the table, and the reward hits like a punch, 1 million G. The receptionist shrugs and writes it down as a rough preliminary estimate. She says the real, exact calculation will hit later. Ray nods, then tells them to hand over the bulk to the guild like always, leaving himself just 100,000 G to keep on hand. While the money transfer clicks into place, Theo silently crunches numbers in his head. He realizes that this low-ranking knight makes only about 200,000 G, which means the reward from this one dragon hunt is bigger than a knight's salary for over 16 years. As he watches Ray, Theo can't help thinking the sheer power of an S-rank adventurer is straight-up unreal. Then Ray whips around and shoves a bag of gold into his hands, grinning, here, 1 million G. She shrugs and admits, I totally forgot your monthly advance, then hands it to him right there. Theo spirals into full panic, freaking out that she's about to hand over that kind of cash right in the middle of the guild hall. The second he's there, the crowd erupts into whispers, confused as hell about who he is to Ray and why she's handing him money. Theo felt the jealous mob's eyes burning into him, and with a jittery thank you, he urged her to bolt right now. Later, they hustle off to the market, and Theo can't hide his excitement. He's grinning at the produce, admiring how fresh everything looks. Ray looks totally lost, asking why they have to buy food when they've still got tons of dragon meat. Then Theo steps in and explains that living on meat alone gets old fast, and they're missing more than just taste. And that cooking is all about forging harmony between the ingredients. Ray locks eyes with him for a split second, then fires back with a simple, "I get what you're saying." They pull up to a veggie stand run by a hulking, grim-looking shopkeeper, and he fires off, "So what are you two cooking?" Ray jabs a finger at Theo and declares he's the one cooking, so Theo awkwardly blurts out, I'm Theo," like he's bracing for impact. The shopkeeper starts to notice he's never seen Theo's face before. Then Ray casually drops a verbal bomb. They've decided to start living together. The shopkeeper gets it all wrong. He blurts in pure shock that he can't believe Ray actually dragged her husband along, while the poor shopkeeper flails his hands, trying to fix the mess, but the confusion is already locked in. Just then a voice shouted, "Alvin," and boom, this stunning man in shining armor charged forward, his sharp gaze locked onto Theo as he demanded, "Ray, who is this?" Ray kicks off the introductions in her usual tactless way. She shoves Alvin straight into it and blurts, "This is Theo. We live together." Then she pulls the newcomer over to Theo and drops the truth. Alvin is just someone around. He's her family. Theo clocks it instantly. Once adventurers band together, they form a family, basically a clan, a party, united for the journey. He tries to choke out a "nice to meet you," but the air is so tense it practically bites. Alvin wastes no time. He grabs Theo by the collar, checks him up and down like he's disgusting, and spits that he just can't wrap his head around it. Then he leans in and demands to know why Ray would ever be with a guy like this. He glares at Theo, scoffs in his face, calls him a weakling, and shuts it down like they're a terrible match from the start. Ray snaps his orders at Alvin, "Let go of Theo's hand right now." Alvin just shoots her a creepy, condescending smile and tells her not to worry, like everything will be over any second. Ray screams her name like a warning, and Alvin's mouth goes into nonstop rant mode, swearing the strong are the only ones allowed to stand by her side. Ray is done listening. Her face drops into something chillingly dark as she barks one final command, "Let go." The face-off explodes into violence. Theo gets slammed hard to the ground, and Alvin looms over him with a cruel sneer, asking if he can't even bother to hold a defensive stance, because to him, it's just pathetic. Even so, right before Alvin can move again, Ray cuts between them, radiating pure menace, and snarls that if he takes one step further, she won't ever forgive him. Alvin's jaw drops, staring in disbelief as he asks if she's really about to raise her hand against her own family, and Ray doesn't budge. She shuts the conversation down cold, saying Alvin ignored her demand first, and with laser focus, she warns that anyone who dares to hurt Theo will have to face her. Realizing he just lost this round, Alvin snaps around in fury, blurts out how Theo could possibly be worth all the hype, then storms off, cursing up a storm. As Alvin retreats, Ray snaps her focus back to Theo and asks if he's okay. He's still rattled, but he manages to stammer out that he's relieved. Ray shoots an apology to the camera, brushing it off with a grin like, "Hey, Alvin just gets a little emotional sometimes, and somehow that makes it feel even more real." Theo locks eyes with her, realizing that if this is just emotions, then her family's standards must be wildly different from normal humans, so he starts picturing them as literal monsters while he digs into what a bit even means. Ray cups Theo's face in her hands, eyes blazing with worry, and tells him that hurting him like that is a line she'll never forgive or forget. Theo's face flushes hard. She's stunned by how warmly she's being treated, and she can't help wondering if it's truly okay for him to get this much kindness. Suddenly, the vegetable shopkeeper in the background explodes into tears, convinced that what he's seeing is their beautiful married love. Calling himself Uncle Bartle and acting like it was a title he earned. He tells them they can grab anything they want as a gift. Theo just stands there, hit with the realization that this wild misunderstanding is proof they're never going to be married. Thea slips into the kitchen, turns on the tap, and scrubs the vegetables clean under the rushing water. He slices through them on the cutting board, working in a relentless, steady rhythm right before. He throws everything into a blazing hot pan to make it sizzle, and he's so stunned by how insanely good the cookware is that he can't even catch his breath. Tears of joy spill down his face when he finally realizes you can cook everything at the same time in that pan. He realizes Ray somehow grabbed the exact one she was told to buy, and he shoots a silent thank you to whoever pointed her to this amazing cooking gadget. As he watches the food bubble, he notices the meat stays thick, while the veggies come out chunky, juicy, and perfectly ready to bite. Theo zeroes in on the details and chooses a light, not too sweet rice so it'll pair perfectly with the meal. Now he tells you he grabbed every kind of ingredient at the market, and right after that, he's ready to lay down the final finishing touch. He breaks down his method: drive the whole flavor with spiciness, stack it with a punch of bitterness, then swirl in that fragrance, finishing with a tiny hit of sweetness to make it pop. He psychs himself up and goes full throttle. Then the dish finally lands on the plate, rich, thick, and ready to tear into. Theo blasts out, "It's done," and Ray sinks into his chair, locked in on the food like it's a mission. Then he leans in and says, "It smells incredible." With Alvin and Theo stepping in beside her, she locks in a plan: time to start eating. Ray takes one spoonful of the stew, tastes it. Boom, her eyes light up, cheeks flushing as she realizes it's absolutely delicious. She runs the flavor through her head, and the dragon meat, already amazing by itself, locks in perfectly with the sharp crunch of fresh vegetables and a punch of spices, turning the whole bite into something unreal. She boldly declares that this taste feels like pure harmony. Theo grins and tells her, "Seriously, you're shockingly good at putting it into words, because the food is so good it's unreal." Ray suddenly decides she has to go hunt more dragons right now, ignoring Theophanix's warning that they'll go extinct, but he shoots back that they still have plenty of meat left. Ray shrugs off the worry, flat out saying that once this supply runs out, she'll just hunt down more, because she's absolutely coming back for this dish. Again, Theo watches Ray dig into her food, and she looks harmless as can be, but he knows the power sitting inside her is straight up unbelievable. She shoots her empty plate toward him and barks for another serving, and Theo doesn't even hesitate. He heads to dish it up. The moment he starts working, he realizes cooking today is actually kind of fun. Maybe, just maybe, it hit him because for the first time, he was cooking for someone else. Later that evening, outside the mansion, a girl with twintails perched on a ridge, humming to herself as she watched the property, because Ray was finally back. The very next morning crashes in, the sun blazing down on the mansion like it owns the place. Right when everything feels calm, a scream rips through the air. Someone inside the house is yelling a furious denial. In his bedroom, Theo jolts awake with a groan, cracks his eyes open, and the moment his vision clears, he freezes in pure panic. Ray is still fast asleep. Theo keeps her cuddled right on top of him in the same bed, and the second she's there, Theo's mouth goes dry. He stammers and freaks out as he stares at her sleeping face, then scrambles frantically to piece together what he remembers. He remembers late last night when he and Ray were cleaning the bedroom, and he'd said he was wiped out, and now it hits him. He must have totally passed out right there. Reality hits like a punch, and he's in his head screaming, "What the hell am I doing here?" He forces himself to lock onto the next move. He has to beat this crisis right now. Then with bone tension care, he eases his body out from under the covers, making sure not to wake her. As soon as everything clicks, he lets out a shaky breath and blurts out, "I'm safe." He bursts into a sprint down the hall, terrified that if Ray's got the wrong idea about what went down, he'll get fired, and his whole life could be over in seconds, until he suddenly slams the brakes, spotting a new visitor has just arrived. Thao yanks the front door open and blurts out a polite "good morning" like his tongue tripping over itself, but the girl with twintails doesn't waste a second. She just glares at him with pure disgust and snaps whether he's someone Ray knows. Before Theo can even get a word out, the girl suddenly loses it. She starts sobbing uncontrollably and screams "traitor" at the top of her lungs. A flashback rips open the truth behind her misery. Turns out she and Ray made a pact. When no good men ever showed up, they'd both swear off love forever and throw themselves into work. Then she breaks down, shaking with rage, and points accusingly at Ray like, "You totally betrayed our agreement." Right then, Ray's voice bursts out from inside the house, calling Theo's name and demanding to know what's wrong. Theo whips around to Ray, trying to blurt out that this visitor is completely losing it, but Ray stays stone calm. She instantly clocks the girl as Cannon and mutters that she's loud as ever. Cannon doesn't come here to chat. She snarls at Ray for daring to show up with that shameless attitude. Right then, she rips open a brutal torrent of fire magic, screaming that Ray slipped ahead of her in the romance race, while Theo panics like crazy, realizing he's trapped in the deadliest blast zone, right in the line of fire. Ray doesn't even blink. She just snaps that Cannon's being way too loud, swings a casual backhand, and the magical attack along with Cannon gets smacked right out of the air, blasting the girl flying through the sky away from the mansion. Theo stares as the girl blasts into the stratosphere, and he shoots Ray a worried look, like, did she just overdo it? Seconds later, Cannon hits the ground again, sobbing her heart out and screaming about betrayal, while Theo, all worried, demands to know if she's really okay. Ray takes a beat to properly introduce the crying disaster. This is a Cannon Port Lift, a bloodline member of her clan and an S-rank adventurer just like her. After a quick off-screen rundown that Theo's just an employee, Cannon's mood snaps. She throws her head back and laughs, insisting the whole thing was nothing but a misunderstanding. Cannon wipes her tears, shoulders finally dropping with pure relief, and mutters that she should have seen it coming, because there's no way Ray could ever land a real boyfriend, not in a million years. But Ray, totally clueless about social cues, drops a bomb on the spot. She blurts out that she slept next to Theo yesterday. Cannon's blood drains and her breath catches as she freezes, stammering through the fear that it's gone way too far. Then Theo bursts into loud panic screams, insisting they just slept side by side and nothing else happened at all. Ray just shrugs off the chaos she unleashed and leans in, snapping at Cannon. Why did you even come over in the first place? Cannon snaps to attention, remembers her mission, and freezes. New floor just popped up in the labyrinth, so now she's yanking Ray along for a dive. Cannon keeps screaming at Ray, firing off the question of whether she's the kind of girl who treats her friends like trash the second she lands a boyfriend, while Ray stays cool, tells her she was just messing around, and points out they're packed up properly. Cannon throws in a quiet, half-remembered thought, then snaps her focus to Theo. Theo, right, you coming with us into the labyrinth? He awkwardly grins and shakes his head, muttering that he'll pass. He jabs a finger at the mountain of junk around him, then leans in and tells you, this is no random mess, he's got an insanely important job to handle. Theo steps into the room and gets hit with a gut punch of reality. His words stumble as he stares out at a literal sea of garbage and clutter packed everywhere. Ray apparently just tossed whatever she was handed straight onto the floor, like it didn't even cross her mind. Instead of getting discouraged, Theo rolls up his sleeves, eyes narrowed like, all right, this is gonna be a real cleanup. Then he grins and yells that he's starting with sorting, because of course, he's the exact kind of guy who gets fired up by a mess like this. Meanwhile, deep inside the rocky cave of the labyrinth, Cannon and Ray press on, and Cannon shoots out a sharp question. Why did Ray decide to let Theo stay with her? She tells her straight up that Ray's always kept everyone at arm's length, so she's dying to know what finally possessed her to move in with a guy and live alone. Ray pauses for a second, tells him his cooking was ridiculously delicious, then the real reason finally comes spilling out. She tells Theo actually looked at her, and Cannon's mind totally breaks. She yells, wait, that's it. Ray just shrugs and admits she never dug that deep, then starts talking as her thoughts drag her back to that conversation with Theo. Theo listens as she tells him the truth. Everyone else only stares at him like he's some S-rank legend, but Theo spoke to her like she was a real person. He poured his heart out about the things he loved, and she swears that maybe that's what lit her up inside. Then Cannon erupts into uncontrollable laughter. Ray's teasing her like, so you're just bragging about your boyfriend now, and the second it hits, Ray snaps ice cold, says she wasted her time trying to explain and marches ahead. Yeah, Cannon has to jog just to catch up. Suddenly, Cannon slips, goes flying off a drop with a gut punch scream, hits the ground with a brutal thud, and Ray, already waiting, tears into her for being so careless. Giant insect monsters slither out of the shadows, and Cannon jolts back, snapping at Ray to shut up like he's got no business talking, because she doesn't need anyone telling her she's clumsy. The moment they land, a brutal swarm of massive ants and beetles closes in on them in seconds. A giant monster rockets in to clamp its jaws on them, and Cannon screams that she knows she's careless. Then Ray doesn't even let the moment breathe. In a blink, a colossal slash tears across the air and wipes the enemy out instantly. The story snaps out of the dungeon's violence and slams into the calm mansion hallway, where Theo cheerfully mops the floor in steady, happy strokes. Back in the mansion, Theo wipes the sweat off his forehead, stares down the hallway he just finished cleaning, and lets out a satisfied sigh, like he just pulled off an absolutely massive win. He whips his eyes to the window, and bam, it's already pitch black outside. Ray and the others should have been back by now. Right then, a loud noise hit the door, like the devil just walked in, so he grinned and called out, "Welcome back." Right in the middle of his words, he jerks to a stop, blurts out a shocked "oh," and then bam, the door swings wide as it's been smashed open, and Theo immediately panics, yelling at them to tell him they're okay. Ray and Cannon crumple onto the dungeon floor, absolutely wrecked and smeared in filth, and Ray lets out a groan that she's starving, while Cannon, face first on the ground, mumbles that she totally forgot to eat. She's completely delirious, babbling who knows what and begging Theo for help, while Cannon clings to Ray with her stomach growling like thunder, because it turns out she hasn't eaten in almost 10 days. Even though she insists she forgot, Ray wears a wide-eyed innocent look, blinking like she's totally lost. She swears she already ate yesterday and can't see what the big deal is. Theo finally clocks it, then he jabs a finger at them, barking that Ray's just learned the joy of eating. He tells her it's not only about nutrition anymore. She's finally started tasting meals for what they truly are, not just what they claim to be. Ray hates admitting it, but part of him knows Theo might be right. Theo just shrugs and says, "Food soon," then immediately orders bath time first. Cut to the bathroom, Cannon sinks into the tub, steam curling around her as she blurts, "Is his name Theo?" and then doubts herself because that guy is seriously, ridiculously amazing. She spins around the sparkling clean room, utterly baffled. How on earth did he pull off fixing that total bathroom disaster? And then she finally sinks in, feeling unbelievably relaxed, whispering, "I never thought I'd get to take a real bath again." She figures that if housework had ranks, Theo would be an instant S rank. Ray slides in with her in the bath, and she admits to Cannon that Theo can do things she can't, so that's exactly why she respects him. Cannon turns icy with jealousy, blurting that she wants to meet a guy like that ASAP too, and Ray just calmly tells her she already has Theo. Cannon freezes in a blank stare, asking who she means until it finally hits. Ray keeps talking, saying Theo accepts Cannon just the way she is, no prejudice, no games, and because of that, Ray's sure Theo and Cannon can become best friends. Cannon stammers, cheeks blazing as she finally catches what Ray's hinting about her and Theo. Then Ray grins and straight up admits she gets a little jealous when Theo clicks with someone new, but since Cannon is her friend, she's cool with it. Cannon immediately blurts, "You're an idiot, Ray," and Ray fires back that friendship is exactly why she'd never do that. She refuses to pull some tasteless move like stealing her friend's guy, while Ray just mutters, "I see." She gripped the stair rail, stuck on one thought. I can't even begin to figure out what's going on in Ray's head. And the more she stared, the more she realized Ray was the kind of woman you could chase forever, yet never truly understand. Theo stands in the kitchen, staring at the mess he's supposed to fix. Then it hits him. While he was cleaning the mansion, he zoned out so hard he forgot to do a single bit of food prep. He knows Ray and Cannon are starving right now, so he decides to cook something up, like, right this second. He storms into work and grabs the leftover curry from yesterday, still sitting there like it's begging to be eaten. He grabs the day and tosses it straight into the rice, then dumps on a mountain of extra ingredients on top. Then he smothers the whole thing in a mountain of cheese and shoves it into the oven to bake. Ken steps in and gets hit by that incredible smell, then blurts out how Theo even cooked something so fast. Theo shrugs and says it's mostly just leftovers. Cannon finally clocks that her clothes are sparkling clean too, and she can't help but tell him he's incredible. Ray jumps in, agreeing Theo really is amazing, so Theo just laughs it off like, "I only ran the washing machine," and pushes them to finally eat. The table's been stacked with a jaw-dropping feast, ready to be devoured. Cannon peeks at the dish in front of her and asks what it is, and Theo grins, saying it's a Doria gratin whipped up with leftover curry, so Cannon doesn't waste a second and goes straight in for the first bite. She takes one bite and boom, her eyes light up like fireworks, and she can't stop raving about how perfectly the spices and the sweet richness of the cheese match. Then she spots the meat, and everything in her just stops. She's never tasted anything this good. Ray throws it out so casually, like it's no big deal, that they're eating dragon meat. Cannon's eyes widen in pure shock as he blurts out "dragon" over and over again. Suddenly fire ignites in her eyes. She blurts that she has to go hunt a dragon right now because it's so tasty. Theo breaks into a cold sweat, realizing this total chaos is exactly why he warned her not to go hunting earlier. Theo grins at her and says, "If you like the food this much, drop by any time. I'll always cook enough for you." He says that cooking for 3 feels almost no harder than cooking for 2. He tells her that watching her dig in with that kind of gusto fills him with joy, while Ray hangs back in the background, silently giving his approval. Cannon's cheeks flare red, and she pivots the whole conversation. She grabs Theo's attention and asks if he wants to come over to her place instead. Back in the kitchen, chaos is exploding. Theo tries to argue he's got real work to do at the mansion, but Cannon won't let up. She keeps pressing him, daring him to just commute from home if it's only housework. She loses control and blurts out, calling him her boyfriend. Ray snaps her hand down on Cannon's shoulder with a violent slap, smirking darkly as she insists she caught a bug, right as the sentence cuts off. While Ray cackles menacingly in the background, Cannon blurts that the meal's over and it's time for the third wheel to hit the road, and Theo nervously offers to walk her to the door. She looks back as she sails out, waving goodbye. Then, as she runs off, her smile vanishes. She watches Kamer's behavior and suddenly realizes, yeah, the Silver Princess isn't playing around at all, she's dead serious about Theo. Cannon admits to herself that jealousy is starting to creep in. The story cuts to a bar where Alvin is totally wrecked. He slams his beer mug down and starts losing it, screaming nonstop about that guy. Ray forces him to explain what he sees in him. His friends scrambled to calm him, staring like, where in the world did Ray even dig up a guy like that with her nonstop questing schedule? One of them brings up how the dragon was subjugated the other day, and suddenly, that's the most likely place for them to meet. The gossip keeps flying as the men trade rumors about a former knight who bolted from his post, only to somehow be insanely good at cooking. They're cracking up about how he even charmed the great Ray's appetite into his corner. Kanon, all armored up, is nearby and snatches their conversation the moment it lands. She pieces together that the knight who cooks has to be Theo, then cuts in, demanding to know every detail, but her stomach tightens thinking, what if Ferris hears about this? Men snap their heads up, stunned that she just addressed them. Later, the story rockets into a clothing store. Ray grabs a bunch of outfits and holds them up to Theo, checking every look like her life depends on it. Theo just stands there, watching her like he's frozen in place. Then it hits him, when a man and a woman go shopping for clothes together, it can only mean one thing. It all starts snapping into place in his head, then it hits him. This is a date. While Ray hums contently beside him, Theo's mind just spirals into panic. Inside, Ray snaps into action, telling Theo that these are his clothes, so he has to step up and pick right. Theo shoots back an apology, but his head is still spinning. How did everything end up like this? Just like that, a voice slices through his thoughts, screaming at him to tell them what's wrong. Theo yanks up his sleeve, and his eyes widen. His clothes are literally unraveling right in front of him. He starts panicking, thinking, did I tear it when I was cleaning earlier? And then realizes he's got to grab a whole new outfit. Then his stingy side snaps on, and he decides, fine, I'll just stitch it up and make it last way longer. Ray glares at him, hit by a brutal realization. She hasn't been paying him enough. Then she snaps, screams, I'm buying you clothes right now, and starts chanting bye-bye. While Theo scrambles, panicking and waving her down as fast as he can. Cut to outside, right as the action spills into the open air. Leo steps out in a ridiculously over-the-top disguise, sunglasses and a face mask, and Ray stares at him deadpan like, yeah, but here's the thing, technically, I'm someone who shouldn't be. It shouldn't be something the knights could uncover, so his lone disguise doesn't even matter. Theo shrugs off her logic, throws on a dramatic pose, and swears this new look will make him impossible to recognize. Ray lets out a sigh and tells him she actually liked the way he looked before. She says if those knights track us down, I don't need any drama, I'll deal with it. Then she leans in and tells him, straight up, she'll fix everything. They step out of the shop and Theo leans in like, yeah, all that chaos, and somehow I still got new clothes sewn that feel almost exactly like my old ones. As they head out, Theo blurts that the fantasy world feels all wrong for a second. Those modern-looking clothes just don't fit, and Ray nods like, yeah, you're right. Right then, a cheerful woman in a headscarf spots them, bursts into a shout, and giddily blurts, what a coincidence, here you are. Theo snaps to it, Aunt Lean. She leans in and tells Ray this couldn't be better timing, because she was literally about to hand her something, and Ray takes the paper bag with a grateful thank you. It turns out to be a huge haul of fresh strawberries, like a sweet, juicy treasure just waiting to be grabbed. Aunt Lean proudly swears her stuff is fresh-picked and insanely delicious, then tells Ray she owes her big time, so this is the very least she can do. Theo clocks it instantly. He doesn't know this lady, and steps forward to be politely respectful. He introduces himself as Ray's employee, then Anton barrels in instantly, assuming he's Ray's rumored husband, and she gushes like she's meeting royalty. He tells them, come on, eat the strawberries together and play nice, and then he teases them as cute and innocent while their faces go red. Theo frantically flails his hands, yelling, that's not it at all, as he realizes this woman won't hear a single word he says. He snaps back to that hulking vegetable shopkeeper from before, and then it clicks, that's Uncle Bartle's wife. Suddenly, everything makes perfect sense. Anton keeps talking, and when her husband fell ill years ago, Ray swooped in with a phoenix feather to save him. Ever since, they've been nothing but grateful, and Theo's brain just fries. He blurts out, so a phoenix isn't even S-rank, and stares at Ray like she just lost her mind, rage pounding in his head as he can't believe she swapped a legendary S-rank treasure for a measly reward of fruit. Then he yells, you're totally crazy. But Ray just beams with warmth, telling Bartle that he always hands her fruit as thanks, and that little gesture lights her up. Before Theo can even process how awful that trade value is, a voice slices in starting with a polite, good day. Ray then instantly chills and snaps, know your place, Theo. It's Alvin, the armored bar brawler, standing there like a fortress with his whole squad behind him. Alvin strides up to the pair and quizzes Ray about whether she grabbed some of her family members for shopping, only for Ray to cut in, grinning, saying she'd been out hunting the Evolve series monsters earlier, and this shopping trip is pure victory celebration. Alvin nods like an Evolve ogre, that's an A-rank threat, nasty work, then instantly undercuts himself with a brag that, for him, it'd be a walk in the park. He leans in and tells Theo the Evolve series are brutal, twisted mutations of regular monsters, then turns to Ray like, You just took one down with zero sweat. Alvin suddenly locks onto Theo, praises his work, then drops the bombshell that he figured they were on a date. Alvin just stares, stunned as his own words hit him. He tries to catch his breath, stammering that it's good to hear. Then he cuts in fast, reminding them they've got an early hunt tomorrow, so nobody gets comfortable tonight. Ray suddenly blurts out the bombshell that she could be gone for a while, and Theo's stunned, because she's telling him she won't be there starting tomorrow. Alvin snaps, demanding to know exactly how long she'll be gone, but Ray just shrugs it off. She's locked on one thing. Will there be breakfast tomorrow? Because she wants to eat before she flies back to boost everyone's spirits. And when Theo says one night of sleep is more than enough, Ray turns around and starts teasing him. She asks if he'll miss her, then blares, clear as thunder, whether he wants to sleep together again tonight. Alvin stared forward like his soul had just ripped straight out of his body. Alvin snaps full meltdown, screaming at Theo and demanding to know how he could trick Lady Ray. Then he yanks out his blade, roars that he'll never forgive him, and tells Theo to become rust on his sword. Theo bolts in pure panic, stunned that their talk somehow spiraled into murder that fast. Ray steps in and clears the air, saying calmly that Theo's working just fine, while Theo panics and nods from a safe distance. He stammered, insisting he wasn't just fooling around, he meant every word. Theo bursts into the room shouting that he's doing housework, and Alvin just freezes, utterly confused as his brain scrambles to make sense of the word. Theo snaps it straight. When he says work, he's not talking about sailing, forging, or casting spells. He means real household chores. Alvin slams on denial, swears it can't be true, until reality crashes in and knocks the air out of him. It hits him like a truck, then he just breaks, bursting into tears as the truth slams in. Theo's at Ray's place, turning the whole thing into something beautiful. He pleads with Ray, swearing he can clone, cook, and even handle the laundry too. And he begs her to trust him instead. Right then, the chaos erupts and the townspeople crowd in, whispering like fire spreading, all wondering if Ray's garbage mansion is really spotless. Soon everyone starts trading terrifying tales about that cursed, filthy place, with one guy swears he once saw something wriggling in the trash heap, and the whole group starts arguing over how many people it would take to clean that nightmare, until they can't believe the truth. It was handled by just one person. Even one local can't help joking that not a single god could clean up that sea of decay by himself. Ray stands front and center, letting everyone blast her like it's no big deal, calling her old home filthy, and her face falls into this sulky, offended stare. Then she finally admits those townspeople's blunt truths genuinely sting, and Theo nervously tries to soothe her with a shaky, forced smile. He was basically saying, "Good, at least it's clean now, just don't you go messing it up again." Ray nods along, but it all blows up fast. Alvin suddenly jabs a finger at Theo, rips into him as a total nobody, and dares him to a housekeeping duel. Theo's standing there totally stunned, while Alvin's dead serious, promising that if he beats Theo in domestic skills, he'll take over guarding Ray's home. Theo shrieks in pure despair, staring at the wreckage of his life like, how the hell did I end up here? In the background, the Twintle girl stares in stunned shock as Theo scrambles to calm things down, but Alvin is so worked up he won't hear a word of reason. But when the cries ring out, Alvin just shrugs it off, then booms back that he's accepting the challenge, declaring this duel the real test of manhood. Flames blazing in his eyes, he screams at Ray to see it for herself. Once he crushes this match, he's taking Theo's spot right beside her. Theo cuts the idea off on the spot, declaring it flat out impossible. Alvin crumples to the ground in pure agony and rips a soul-crushing scream into the air. Then he pounds the floor with his fists, over and over. Bitterly howling that it's all unfair, he blurts that he's family. Yet after spending way more time with Ray, he still can't claw his way into being her right-hand man. Then he just stares at the ground, crying out what he's missing compared to Theo. Theo tells Alvin, if you want answers, stop guessing, come to Ray's house and see it for yourself. Alvin's face twists with confusion, but he tells Theo to take point, and Theo darts to Ray to make sure it's cool to bring Alvin along. She waves it off like it's no big deal. Approval, they roll up to the mansion a short time later, and the second Alvin crosses the threshold, he stops dead in the entrance, stammering as his mind scrambles to take in the place. Alvin loses his mind at the sparkling interior, blaring out in disbelief that this has somehow turned into a real, livable place. Then he whips around to face Theo. Theo gets hit with the furious question, what ancient sorcery from the age of myths is he using to pull this off? And Theo just shrugs, I cleaned it, that's all. Alvin won't swallow that answer. He erupts in a scream, calling it pure nonsense. He tells you the nation sent in elite janitors to scrub the mansion clean, but the whole operation got yanked midstream when every single one of them got hit by a mysterious illness. He still can't wrap his head around how Theo single-handedly pulled off a national-level recovery with nothing but raw skill, no special techniques at all. Ray catches that odd illness remark and snaps his head toward Theo. Realizing he'd kept the whole danger locked behind his silence, she fixes him with a piercing stare. Theo's eyes twitch when he realizes the truth is out there, and he starts sweating hard, then acts clueless, pretending he was so locked in on cleaning that he never heard a word about any curse. Alvin, still clinging to denial, swears it's only the entrance hall that's spotless, and refuses to throw in the towel just yet. Theo stays totally calm and gestures for him to come see the other rooms, then Alvin strides through the house. He's totally stunned by what he's seeing. Those rooms that looked like they were about to churn out brand new monster breeds are now spotless, like a luxury hotel. He halts right in front of the bathroom, trembling as he finally realizes the bathroom of tragedy is usable again, and Theo blurts that everyone always says the exact same thing. Alvin looks like he's seconds away from breaking, grasping at anything at all just to stop the argument from swallowing him. Theo beams and offers to cook, pushing the idea hard that they should grab something to eat right now. He admits to himself that, even though he's the one who made the offer, Alvin already stuffed himself with dinner at home, and Ray also grabbed a meal right before they headed out. Even after they've already eaten, Theo snaps into action and decides to cook anyway. Then he rushes into the spotless kitchen, washes fresh strawberries, chops them with razor precision, and whips up a thick, creamy finish. He flips those fluffy pancakes like a pro and stacks them up into a proper dessert. Theo slides the finished batch onto the table, grins as he hands you strawberry pancakes, and dares you to take a bite and enjoy. Joy hits him like a punch. This dessert is stacked sky-high, fruit and flowers arranged like a pro made it. Alvin just glares at the plate, sneering to himself that sweet treats are for women and children. Alvin takes one bite and instantly snaps. He erupts in shouting, praising the strawberry tartness as perfectly balanced, unleashing just how deep that sauce really goes. He raves that the whipped cream vanishes like a fading cloud. He screams as the sweetness melts away, leaving a crisp, refreshing taste on his tongue. Ray just chuckles, saying everyone gets way too talkative once they eat Theo's cooking. And Theo cracks up, loving Alvin's compliment. Alvin swears he's never tasted a dessert this elegant at any banquet, anywhere. Meanwhile, Ray stares at her empty plate in disbelief. Her pancake is already gone, and she's kicking herself for not savoring every last bite. Theo smirks and says he knew Ray would burn out instantly, so he whips out a tower-sized pancake stack he made beforehand. Ray bursts into cheers, giddy that he's so prepared for her. As she happily crunches away, Alvin can't help but stare at her smile, like it's lighting up the whole room. Then he stares at his spotless plate, grips it tight, and slams it onto the table with a hard, serious look. Alvin thanks Theo for the meal, then grabs the moment and declares, "All right, I'm heading out now." But before he leaves, he grabs Theo and tells him to stick with him for a little while. Theo trails after Alvin as they slip out of the room, and Ray stays put, savoring her dessert while watching them disappear into the distance. Alvin stands outside the mansion while Theo finally caves and admits defeat. He flashes back to Ray's warm smile, then tells Theo that after years of serving her, he's never once seen her trust anyone like this, so real, so fearless. It burns him up, but he finally swallows the truth. This round is over. He starts to blurt that he can't be the one to back Ray up, but Theo cuts him off, confessing he's hit with the very same crushing frustration. Theo tells everyone that Alvin and the others can back her up in the fight, but he just can't match her speed when the battle gets real. He can do nothing but sit alone at home and pray she comes back safe, and even then he tells Alvin, "Yeah, I'm fine with it." Theo keeps talking, and once Ray finally walks back in, he swears his only mission is to light up her face, just one real smile, and a little more happiness, no matter how small. Then he admits it's more than enough for him. He snaps back to the moment Ray saved him, and he tells Alvin, since she pulled him out of death, the only way he can repay her is by being her support at home. Alvin hears it and just collapses, like his whole soul gives out. He finally understands he didn't just lose, he's been wiped out as a man. Total defeat. He looks back on his time with Ray, and it hits him. Fighting at her side felt like fighting with family. He'd put her on a pedestal, terrified that loving her too intensely would make it impossible for him to believe she could ever be happy with anything less than all his devotion. He bellows in pure agony, and the truth hits him. He's the one who built the wall between them the whole time. Theo just freezes there, awkward as hell, while Alvin spirals into a full-on mental meltdown, and Theo's got no clue how to help. Once Alvin finally pulls himself together, Theo swings back in and tells him to come again, next time hungry, so the three of them can all cram around the table and keep eating until they're stuffed. Alvin snaps his face away, trying to hold onto his tough guy image. Then he tells Theo not to get cocky, admits he still got beat this round, and says Theo hasn't truly earned his trust, and right after that, his words choke and he stammers. Admitting the food was so damn good it made him crave a second helping. He finally looks the chef in the eye, calls him Theo, and when Theo smiles back, he blurts out that it's an honor. Later, Alvin storms up to a cliff and yells at the sunset, swearing he'll sharpen his own household skills and beat the competition. Meanwhile, something horrifying is happening somewhere else. Monster attacks are surging, getting brutal, and the narrator can't look away. Just outside the mansion, a mysterious woman with short, light hair lurks in the shadows, and it screams one thing: Theo just escaped one mess, but the grudges from the past are about to drag him straight into the next. Blissfully unaware of the threat creeping closer, Theo stays hunched over his garden, tending a smoker like nothing's wrong, while the narrator warns that mouth-watering scent can lure danger straight to your doorstep. Theo checks his hanging smoked meats, grinning at the results as he nods, all right. Theo wipes the sweat from his brow, grinning like he just nailed the smoked meat. He's replaying that chat with Ray in his head, how she admitted she missed mealtime this time, and then she hit him with it. If he brings her smoked meat, she'll chow down while she's out hunting. And if he doesn't watch her, she usually skips meals entirely. Reacting to that memory, Theo sprints back toward the building. He tells himself okay and keeps replaying the food in his head. Then he spots a figure lurking near the building, turns around, and asks politely if he can help with anything. But the second he finally turns and meets the visitor's gaze, he goes still, because it's the short-haired woman in armor from his past. They lock eyes and Theo's whole body jerks. He gasps in shock as recognition hits hard. Rage boils in her, she's beyond furious. Then she locks eyes, confirms Theo is really alive, and screams his name. She reads the official report word for word. During the dragon subjugation, Theo used his entire squad as decoys to save himself, then got burned to death by the flames, and when she looks at him, hatred turns feral in her eyes, disgust roaring as she realizes he faked his own death. Theo's jaw drops when he hears this wild fabrication, stay. Theo blurts out that it can't possibly be true, and the second the words leave his mouth, he knows it's Captain Bram behind it. He figures Bram would never hand out the real facts about himself, yet this stunt is so outrageous it makes Theo's stomach drop. She keeps talking, said she'd heard nasty rumors in town, so she came to dig them up, and man, she's glad she did. Then she glares at him and spits out that she never once thought he'd dare try getting close to someone like Ray Silverhorn. Theo starts to deny it, but the second he opens his mouth, she blasts, "Shut up, silence," and cuts him off mid-stammer. She shuts him down cold, refuses to listen to a single word. He dismisses her words as drivel from a sex offender and snaps that she's not going to listen. Theo scrambles to explain it's all just a misunderstanding, but the second he starts to say Bram's the one to blame, she barrels right over him and won't let him finish. Theo opens his mouth and tries to justify everything. Feliz just spits the same excuses she's heard before. Then Theo calls her name, Feliz, and the moment she hears it, she recoils like it hurts. She shrieks that he's disgusting. Then Feliz snaps away, turns her back, and shuts him down, telling him she's got nothing left to say since his case first fell under Captain Bram's jurisdiction. Now that Theo has been found, Bram is going to step in and take the right action, no hesitation. She turns and walks off, and Theo is left alone in the yard, frozen in disbelief from what just happened. The sky goes quiet as the scene fades out, and Alvin's sharp snap jolts Theo out of his trance, forcing him to finally ask, "What's wrong?" Wrong, he snaps the reminder to Theo. They agreed this was only scouting, and tonight they'll go out properly. Theo, still shaken from what happened with Feliz, looks lost, stammers out an apology. At first, he barely even recognizes Canon and Alvin. Then Canon lets out a sigh, snaps that he seriously forgot, and right away complains she's starving, demanding to know if there's food. Theo shoots up from his chair in full panic, yells that he'll get it ready right now, and the others just stare as he scrambles like something's seriously wrong. Moments later, he thunderously slams a huge bowl down on the table. Alvin and Canon lean in, staring at the dish as the stir-fried vegetables confirm they're exactly right. The group dives into the meal, and Theo blurts out an apology for how simple it is, because he's been slammed for time, but the second they taste it, they can't stop loving it. Canon gushes over the crisp veggies and juicy meat, and even though it's a little burnt, she's got zero complaints. Alvin nods and says it's the perfect match for rice, and he's begging everyone else to take a bite too. He admits he couldn't really taste much before, so this amazing food feels like a miracle, and Theo thanks them with pure relief all over his face. Ray suddenly blurts out, cutting through all the praise, and goes straight for Theo, asking him point-blank if something happened. Theo freezes on the spot and tries to play it off like he knows nothing, but Ray cuts right through it, because the taste is totally off from the usual. Theo scrambles to pin it on the burnt parts, but Ray slams the brakes on him, saying he was distracted and he needs to be more careful next time because that off-taste isn't just from the burning. An awkward silence crashes over the table as Alvin and Canon lock eyes on the exchange. Theo fidgets and blurts out that he just collided with an old acquaintance. Alvin looks shocked that Theo actually knows people, then snaps at Canon the second she starts poking around. Canon ignores him completely, then locks onto Theo with a smug grin and announces it had to be a woman, an old girlfriend specifically. Theo frantically shakes his head, but Canon just laughs and jabs a finger at him. His panic is so loud it screams suspicious. Theo tries to play it off as pure nostalgia, but Canon just waves him off with a teasing, "I'm kidding." Theo whips around to Ray, blurts out an apology for scaring her, then grabs his shoulder and swears he's totally fine. Ray gives a quick nod like, "Got it," and Theo swears he'll do better next time. Later, Theo stands alone beneath the moonlight, trying to talk himself into believing that everything's really going to be okay. He's sure Captain Bram wouldn't drag himself all the way here just to hunt him down. There's no way someone that important would be that bored. He stares, then later that night the mansion falls dead quiet. Everyone else finally drifts off to sleep. In one room, Theo's perched on the edge of his bed, wide awake, eyes fixed on the floor as his thoughts spin out of control. Ray's about to speak when the door handle clicks bam. The door swings open, and he strides right into the room. Theo snaps his head around, shocked to spot her this late, and blurts out a stammering question, "What is she doing here?" Ray stares at him without flinching and calmly asks, "Can't you sleep?" Theo blurts out a quick cover-up, rubbing his neck and insisting he's only drowsy because he spent the whole day drifting and zoning out. Ray shuts down his excuse and shoves a tiny object into his hands. Theo raises it, and his eyes widen as he realizes it's a teleportation magic stone. And then blurts out, "So what's this all about?" Ray sits on the bed beside him and tells him plain, if anything goes wrong, he just has to think of her and crush the stone. She swears that if he does, she'll teleport to him instantly, no matter where he is. Her face melts into something gentler as she tells him, "I don't know what happened with your old acquaintance. He can't ever forget, she's always got his back with." Without a second thought, Ray shoots in and wraps him in a tight hug. Theo leans into that comfort, shuts his eyes tight, and blurts out a heartfelt thank you. Inside his mind, defeat slams down. He already knew it, deep in his bones. She's got that scary intuition, and he's no match for it. Ray storms out of the room, and Theo finally drops back into bed, letting out a long-needed exhale. He fixes his eyes on the magic stone for a breath, slips it away, and then drifts off to sleep beneath the moonlit glow. But the calm doesn't even get a chance. Boom. A brutal crash tears through the mansion, yanking Theo awake in full panic. Before he can breathe, Captain Bram barrels in like a storm, shouting that they gotta report the building is hiding a fugitive, and then declaring they're sweeping the entire place right now. He snaps orders to his squad to smash everything if they have to, shouting they don't know where the fugitive is hiding. Theo snaps to it instantly. The voice hits him like a memory he can't forget. He bolts out in pure horror and barrels straight into Bram, demanding to know why the hell he's there. Captain Bram is completely unhinged, yelling at the top of his lungs that he's been dying to see Theo. He demands to know how the hell Theo crawled out alive from that mess, even as he admits Theo's luck isn't completely terrible. Bram smirks at him and slaps the name Genius on Theo, calling him his precious toy that finally crawled back home. Then he breaks into laughter, swearing he's the luckiest one of all. Theo's groggy and lost in the fog, but Bram won't let up. Right then the captain slams him with a twisted deal. Either get pummeled first and arrested after, or get arrested first and then get beaten to a pulp. As Bram keeps talking, Theo's mind snaps back to the gift Ray handed him, plus her exact order. Think of her and crush the thing if he ever needs backup, and suddenly he realizes he's sitting on an ace. Theo lifts the stone and tells Bram, straight up, that he talks pure shit. Bram lunges at Theo, yanks him in close and spits out, "So this is your rebellious phase," with a sarcastic jab that he's totally heartbroken. He spots Theo's clenched fist and snaps, "Show me what you're holding," but Theo refuses to open his hand. Bram yanks Theo's fingers in a hard squeeze, snapping at him to stop acting so cold and to quit hiding secrets from them. Then, as the fight breaks out, the stone slips right out of Theo's grip and smashes down with a loud clatter onto the floor. Bram yanks Theo back, stares down at the object, and his face lights up, because he instantly recognizes it as a teleportation stone. He scoffs, grumbling that top-tier adventurers get to live the good life with gear like that, and it's clear it drives him insane. Braham slams his boot down with a brutal stomp, pulverizing the stone into dust as he snaps. So what were you trying to pull, Theo? He needles Theo, smirking whether he even understands how the item works, then lays it out. The one who smashes the stone has to picture the person they're calling before it ever hits. Because Bram was the one who smashed it, he flashes a grin at Theo and shrugs, too bad, and then bam, his guardian angel never shows up to rescue him. With rescue dead in the water, Bram slams the suspect into custody and orders him officially detained. Then one of his soldiers rattles off the fake charges: desertion, treason, and that attempted rape lie from 4 years ago. Bram leaned in, taunting Theo about his crimes stacking up, and then whispered that he could pull strings to keep Theo alive, only to toss him back into slavery again. Right then, a soldier barges in and tells the captain it's time for that, and Bram jolts back to reality, realizing he almost forgot he's got urgent business waiting. Bram yanks a tiny bag of white powder from his pocket, stuffs it into a drawer, and then, right on cue, starts acting like he's got nothing to hide. He's yelling nonstop about finding drugs in the house, gloating like crazy that the headlines will shriek about an S-rank adventurer hosting a drug party, calling it huge news. Theo stammers that this is ridiculous because he literally just saw them planted, but Bram keeps screaming that this is a dire situation. Bram cackles like a villain and tells Theo he's still the same idiot, then boasts this whole setup will smack those adventure junk pieces back into line. Ray's punishment because he'd gotten carried away. Then he turns on Theo, sneering, "Who on earth would even testify for you?" Theo spirals into crushing self-blame, convinced Ray was stupid for picking up a jinx like him. And finally seeing that everyone's trapped in pain, all because he's in the middle of it. Desperate to save his friends, Theo drops to his knees, slams his forehead to the ground, and tells Captain Bram he was wrong. Then he pleads, begging him to keep Ray out of this. Bram completely shuts the apology down, whips around to his soldiers, and declares it's time to tie up the war. Then he orders them to ravage everything they see. Theo shoots his head up in terror, screams at them to stop, then throws himself forward like a sacrifice. Bram snatches a fistful of Theo's hair and yanks his head back hard, demanding if Theo is really that confused about what's going on. Bram sneers, saying there's no way Theo, just some worthless scrap, deserves all this effort when he's doing it alone. He finally admits this is his shot to crush the adventurers he's hated for ages, then erupts into a loud laugh, like he's daring anyone to try escaping. Meanwhile, across town, a colossal dragon slams down and dies on the spot, and Ray just stands beside the fallen beast, calm as can be. A roaring crowd goes wild as Kanon throws both hands up and screams, "I did it," flaunting her victory like a victory flag. When Alvin whips around to Ray and says, "You did it, give me credit to the right person," and Ray just nods, quiet as ever, okay. Then, without a moment's warning, her focus snaps. She rockets into the sky with explosive speed. Kanon and Alvin are left frozen in total disbelief, while Ray tears off into the distance and disappears from sight. Back at the dragon's site, Ray rockets into the air out of nowhere, yelling that she's handing the cleanup over to the rest of the team. Kanon sprints after her, screaming for her to stop. Ray clearly has no clue, and Kanon blurts, "What's happening?" while Alvin can't help wondering if Ray had some kind of premonition. As she bolts away, Ray finally gets it. The teleportation stone she handed Theo shattered before it was even used. She recognizes the warning for what it is, instant danger, and she bolts straight to him. Meanwhile, Theo is stuck in a cell, getting hammered with non-stop abuse from Bram's squad. Soldiers shove buckets of filth into his cell and yell at him through the bars. They corner him and demand to know how he can show his face again after he used his own comrades as decoys. Then they slap him with the question of why he didn't just kill himself. They keep tearing into him, shouting that he's a traitor and a disgrace to the knighthood, while he just sits there, silent as stone. Captain Bram struts into the dungeon like he owns the place, flashes Theo a casual greeting, and the moment he clocks the chaos his soldiers left behind, a sly smirk spreads across his face as he remarks that Theo is the one they're really backing. He slams the cell door open and barks at Theo to follow, right now. As Theo gets dragged away, the soldiers in the back snicker and whisper like vultures, practically buzzing about whether this is the moment Theo finally gets finished. Theo's just strolling down the corridor when a bucket rockets through the air and cracks him square in the head. The soldiers exploded into laughter, taunting him with one cruel question: was his final drink actually delicious? And he laughed it off like this was some kind of luxury just for a traitor. Bram glares at the chaos and sneers that Theo's got quite the following. Phyllis chips in that she's thrilled to witness it. Then Bram snaps his focus back to Theo to keep the pressure on, and right then he kicks Theo's legs out from under him. Theo slams onto the ground, choking out a pained grunt. Then Bram crowds over him, sneering like, "Why are you sleeping?" and barking, "Get the hell up." With a wild, crazed stare blazing in his eyes, Bram shouts that Judgment Day has finally arrived. Deep in the forest, Ray's crew is sprinting like their lives depend on it just to catch up, and Kanon keeps snapping, "I can't believe this is actually happening." Alvin points out that Ray planted a backup magic stone, one that would scream an alert the moment the teleportation stone failed, which is hilariously overprotective, and Kanon admits, yeah, it totally came in handy. Ahead of them, Ray sprints with laser focus, her entire world shrinking to one question: was Theo okay? Ray and her crew finally roll up at their destination, almost certainly the mansion where Theo was staying, only to find the whole place smashed to pieces. Books and furniture are blasted all across the room. Ray scans the wreck and snaps that she can't feel Theo at all, while Kanon stares at the chaos and blurts, "What on earth happened here?" From the darkness, a voice sneered at them, mocking, "Took you long enough to show up." Two knights swagger forward with smug grins, welcoming the adventurer like he's finally arrived. Then they casually drop that they've been waiting for this moment. Kanon instantly spots their armor, blurts out in pure shock and screams, "Why are the knights here?" Ray doesn't care a single bit about their rank. She barrels straight up to them, gets in their faces, and demands to know where Theo is. One of the knights snaps up his hand to shove them back, roaring that they better not lay a finger on him, and just as Kanon tries to ask what's going on, the knight cuts her off, telling her to shut up and screaming that Ray is a criminal. Then the knights strike, boom, accusing Ray's house of hiding a massive stash of narcotics, and they're hauling her off into custody right now. Kanon's totally stunned, shouting that there's absolutely no way Ray would ever touch drugs. Alvin tries to smooth it over, saying there's got to be a mistake and urging them to double-check the facts. Then the knight snaps him off immediately, snarling, "Shut the hell up." He kicks it off by mocking them, snapping that he's tired of excuses from Theo's friends. Then he sneers and asks, straight up, if Alvin and Kanon are high too. His partner snaps that they shouldn't get cocky, then throws Ray Silver a brutal order, "Shut up and surrender." Ray's had it, she's done listening. With a casual flick, she swings her arm through the empty air. The knights and even her teammates go wide-eyed as her invisible swing slams the stone wall clean out of existence right by that knight's head, and when the rubble finally stops falling, Ray stares at the shaking soldier and spits that he's worthless. Ray leans in close, her face contorted with fury, and screams that she wants Theo's location right now. Just the other night, the trembling warned her to wait, pointing out that striking them would instantly turn him into an enemy of the entire order of knights. Kanon rushes in, trying to calm the whole situation before it explodes. But the knight on the ground had already crushed him. He roared in pure terror, begging her to spare his life and swearing he'd spill every single secret. After digging out the details, Ray grins and declares she's got Theo's location. Kanon panics when he realizes Ray's about to bolt, and he blurts out if she's really running off alone. Ray just calmly answers that she is. Alvin barrels straight into her path, blocking the way and begging her to hear him out for a second. Then Ray snaps a terrifying glare at him and barks, "Move." Alvin barrels forward with blazing determination, shouting that he's jumping straight into the rescue mission. Ray stares at Alvin like he just lost his mind, but Alvin surges forward anyway, insisting that he owes that man for his hospitality. Kanon cuts in right after, and it's like she's practically daring everyone to see what comes next, because obviously she's going to. She flashes Ray a sharp smile, reminding the S-rank adventurer that she's not the only one who still cares about Theo. Ray fixes her gaze on her two companions. Kanon asks if Ray's really okay with this, saying it's exactly what a family is made for, and right when she sees that, a warm smile lights up Ray's face. She just drops a quick little note. Nope, she shuts down every hesitation and blurts, "Let's go." With the whole team locked in, Kanon declares it's decided. The three of them are going to save him. Meanwhile, the focus snaps to Theo. One rope that's been yanking him in place gets sliced clean through. A sword clatters into the dirt right in front of him, and Theo just sits there, shaking, terrified, and completely lost. Towering over him, Captain Bram flashes a twisted grin, bragging about his mercy, then tells Theo this is the last chance, period. Bram rockets his arms wide and blasts out the start of a trial by combat like it's about to ignite the whole room. The crowd, probably Bram's own soldiers, erupts in instant bloodlust, roaring for Theo to die and demanding a duel right now. Bram smirks at the chaos he's unleashed, turns to Theo and dares him on, pushing the violence like it's the only way things should be. Bram shouts Ferris's name from right where he's standing. She wears total indifference, telling the captain, "I already told you to do whatever you want, so you don't need to drag me into this." With Theo frozen in shock, Bram slips in close to his ear and taunts him. Then he goes on about how Ferris is always like this, nudging Theo with, "Don't you ever feel lonely with all that?" Bram keeps pressing his psychological torture, insisting it's crucial that all three, him, Theo, and Ferris, stay right here together. He cackles, insisting this is the climax everyone has to see. He shoves Theo into a no-win corner and demands a choice: grab the sword and fight, or stand right there and get killed. Theo's face snaps from pure fear to fierce determination. He clamps both hands on the sword, tells Bram not to mess with him, and roars that he's not dying tonight. He'll fight and he'll win. He rips out a furious scream that he won't be Bram's puppet forever, and then he shouts the captain's name, swearing he'll claw his way back alive so he can get right back to Ray's side. Bram just stares at his sudden defiance with a bored face, muttering about what's gotten into him and calling it a total turnoff that he's getting all worked up like that, while Farah, in the background, shrugs and says she has no idea. Bram snaps, his face contorts into a brutal scowl as he blurts out that he's had enough and says he's always despised that hot-headed attitude, and the moment it shows, he barrels straight into the attack. Their blades slammed together with a brutal crash, sparks exploding in the air every time they struck. Bram grinds his teeth and snarls that it's beyond annoying, coming from a puny Theo, and he hammers Theo with the same furious command, screaming for him to hurry up and die over and over. Theo fights to stay upright, muscles shaking under the captain's crushing strength, teeth clenched as he refuses to fall. Bram slammed his sword down with a venomous mutter for Theo to die, but at the crash of steel, his blade ripped free and shot spinning into the air. Theo spots the huge opening and rockets forward, screaming that he's got him. Bram freezes, genuinely shocked for just a split second. Suddenly, Theo gets blasted backward by sheer force, smashing hard into the brick wall behind him. Bram stands there totally unharmed, wiping the sweat off his brow, then admits, "That was way too close. I swear I almost accidentally died back there." As Theo slumps against the wall, completely lost and demanding answers, Bram shoots back a sarcastic apology, like he's sorry for falling for his own hype. He taunts Theo, bragging that from the very beginning, they were never going to stand a chance. Bram finally drops the secret. His magic chain, blazing across Theo's chest, jerks under his control, and with a smug grin he reveals how he secretly wrapped it around Theo, bragging that this hidden ace was exactly what he needed. He smirks at Theo and hands him a compliment, saying he's always had those sharp instincts and that talent never rots. Then, the second he finishes, his smile vanishes and his face turns stone cold. He snaps that it's pissing him off, caught in Theo's defiant glare. Then Bram adds, "What drives me insane most of all, those eyes. It's boiling his blood, straight up." Bram is totally snapping. He rain-bombs Theo with brutal punches, screaming that he despises those defiant eyes and the stubborn light still burning behind them. Then he snarls at Theo not to dare find joy in cooking, calling him a piece of shit. He screams that Theo should have given up on the world and just died already. Ferris can't believe what she's seeing. She begs the captain to stop, but Bram barrels through her pleas, screaming at Theo to just die again and again, and Ferris watches in sickening horror as she realizes Theo really is about to be killed at this rate. Bram leans in close to Ferris and whispers, "Relax, I'm gonna have you all killed anyway, so this changes nothing." Ferris presses her for answers when she looks clearly wrecked, and she stammers that as a knight this kind of behavior is wrong, yet no matter how hard she tries, she can't bring herself to stand up to him. Bram mocks her right in front of everyone, bursting into laughter at the whole knight idea, then deadpans, "So are you actually spiraling over chivalry like it's still a thing?" and swings his focus back to Theo, casually saying how wild it is that Ferris takes everything so seriously. Bram keeps talking, saying the more serious someone is, the easier they fall under hypnosis, and in Ferris's case, turns out the rule hits dead on. Theo, bruised and battered, hears that word and immediately latches onto the clue. Then Bram drops the truth like a bombshell. That night, he used a magical suggestion to make Ferris hallucinate Theo was attacking her, and with a sleazy grin he admits he'd also wanted to sleep with her just because she's a beauty. Theo, horrified, blurts out why Bram would do something that cruel. Then Bram freezes for a beat, and when he speaks, his expression darkens and he says there's just one reason, and nothing else matters. Bram leans in and says it's nothing serious, just a small way to blow off time, pure entertainment. He erupts into a rant about the knight's order, calling it one endless pressure cooker, chained to some crap chivalry, rules, trapped living under constraints, and all the while knowing he could drop dead tomorrow. He says if he doesn't lock onto a target and vent his rage, he feels like he can't breathe. Bram leans over Theo with a grin full of poison, saying that if Theo's going to bully someone, he's the perfect target. Then Bram yanks the glowing chain hard, trying to steal Theo's breath. Theo yanks the metal links with his bare hands, refusing to fold, and the magical force slams into him. He grimaces, stammers, fights back, and Then it hits, his voice comes roaring back, and he tells Bram he's not some toy. With full confidence, he declares, "I'm Theo." With every last breath of his spirit, he lunges into a roar, "I'm Ray's house husband." Suddenly, a voice snaps that what happened was pure agony. A solid brick wall in the room suddenly blows inward, blasting debris through the air like a war zone. Cannon strides right through the giant hole she just blasted, acting like it's no big deal. Then she tosses off a quick apology and admits that tracking down the entrance to this place was a total nightmare. Theo tears through the dust, locks onto his allies, and roars, "Cannon." Bram instantly snaps into panic, yelling that there are intruders and commanding his frozen soldiers to ring them in, while Cannon steps through the wreckage like it's no big deal, stone cold unimpressed. And then she admits to the soldiers that she truly feels sorry for them, right as Alvin slides up beside her and says he's right there with her. Ray Silverhorn stomps forward like a wrecking ball, and the soldiers get blasted flying as she roars that their sweet little princess is in a seriously foul mood today. On the ground, the troops choke on pain, and the rest lose it when they finally clock who she is. One soldier even blurts out, "Why is an S-rank adventure here?" while Cannon just stands there grinning as Ray steps in. Ray yanks Theo into a crushing hug and murmurs that she's here to get him, and Theo, beaten up and drained, collapses into her shoulder, whispering thanks like it's all he has left. Inside the nearby castle, a figure behind a desk snaps awake, hears the chaos outside, and grumbles that everyone's being way too loud. Ray stands guard right beside Theo, making it crystal clear that their bond isn't just there, it's locked in and stronger than ever in this exact moment. Ray and Theo tuck in near the castle wall as Bram snaps completely. He's yelling nonstop, ordering his men to stop gawking and form a tight net around the intruders so they have nowhere to run. The soldiers shout back in full agreement, their fear snapping into steel as they ready themselves to charge. Bram screams at them to keep the intruders from walking out alive, while Ray slashes through the chaos with a terrifying glare. She freezes them with a sharp, cold look and tells them they're being way too loud. Her aura slams into them so hard it steals their breath. Bram squeaks in terror, and the soldiers fold to their knees, convinced death is seconds away. Bram tries to rally his men, but his whole body is trembling like theirs. Captain Bram is losing his mind, screaming out charges like trespassing, assault, and obstructing an officer, yelling, "Do you really think you can just walk away and get off for free?" Theo and Ray straight up ignore him, and then Theo whips around to Ray, thanking her. She smiles softly and tells him they'll be home soon. Theo spots something off and blurts to Ray, asking if she's okay, because that injury looks absolutely brutal. Ray waves him off, insisting it's not nearly as bad as it seems. In the background, Bram's face starts twitching like crazy the second he realizes he's being watched completely. Bram finally snaps when everyone brushes him off. He roars at the top of his lungs, daring them to ignore him ever again. The sheer weight of it shocks Theo, and Ray just squints harder, like she's already clocked something. Ray casually swats Bram aside, and the blow hurls him backward hard enough to smash through wooden crates, landing him upside down. Soldiers are left standing there, completely frozen, stunned into deadly silence. Ray drops her hand and says that should shove everything into silence for at least a little while. The moment she casually blasts their captain back, the soldiers' whispers snap into screams of terror, "Monster," and the whole troop erupts in chaos until a female knight finally steps forward. She charges forward, screams at everyone to cool off, admits Ray Silverhorn might be a dead end, then slams down new orders, capture the other intruders instead. She shouts that letting them walk out would be a disgrace to the knights, and it can't happen. The soldiers rally on the spot, agreeing with her, but Cannon steps up. She snaps at the female knight, Aqua, saying she's got the nerve to talk like that. Cannon flashes a grin and casually reminds them, "Yeah, and technically, I'm an S-rank adventurer too." She hurls a towering wave of fire magic, blasting a terrifying inferno straight at the soldiers. The soldiers jerk back, scorched by the heat. Cannon snaps to the realization in an instant she's the flame demon, and as she tilts her head, Cannon can't help but wonder out loud, how could anyone miss her just because she doesn't look like the usual mage? Alvin stares at the screen with dead-eyed exhaustion, and the desperate soldiers realize they can't take her down either, so they panic shout, aim at the man, and point straight at Alvin. From the sidelines, Theo flashes a quiet rice smile and clocks it instantly. Cannon is 100% the power type. Alvin bursts into the chaos, slicing cleanly through the enemy lines with razor-sharp precision. He steps forward and introduces himself as an A-rank adventurer, then coolly tells those soldiers he won't be toppled by pathetic footmen like them. Captain Bram is losing his mind in real time. His men are getting overwhelmed, and he's yelling at the adventurers to stay away, flipping out because he won't let anyone treat this battlefield like it's a playground. Desperate to flip the battle's outcome, he roars orders at his squad, wipe out all 4 intruders and prove the knights aren't just talk. As the skirmish grinds to a halt, Cannon and Alvin trade shocked looks and admit the truth. The enemy soldiers have guts like steel to hold out this long. Ray's gaze snaps onto one target, and she strides right past Theo, locking eyes with Bram and calling him out as the one who hurt Theo. Then she makes it clear that earlier, pushing him away just wasn't enough. She yanks her sword into view, glares daggers at the captain, and vows she'll never ever forgive him. Ray locks eyes with ruthless intensity and swears it on her very soul, while Bram, drenched in sweat, tries to keep his cool and fires back, mocking her for sounding like she pulled that line out of a cheesy script. He mutters through clenched teeth that no matter what hits him, he'll still win in the end. With a wild, crazed stare burning in his eyes, Bram hurls himself at Ray, screaming that bullying isn't any fun unless the victim fights back. In the blink of an eye, Ray rockets in and intercepts the attack head-on. She keeps her voice steady as she admits she cut his tendons, just to keep everything quiet for a while. Bram slams into the ground, panic exploding as he realizes his legs have quit, and he can't move not an inch. His soldiers scramble in terror, yelling to know what she did to their lord, and screaming that she won't slip out of this. Ray looms over the crippled Captain Bram and starts laying into him. Then she explains that adventurers survive by their own souls, not some dusty common law. Bram's sweating like crazy, totally thrown off, and blurt out, "What are you even talking about right now?" Ray suddenly snaps back, "You just don't get it." She shrugs at his life like it's nothing, because their rules are worlds apart, and she wouldn't hesitate to cut his head off right here, right now, yet she still admits Bram is a man who lives by the law. So she decides to stop using her own judgment and start measuring him by those laws instead. Meanwhile, Cannon's got Bram's squad right where she wants them. She offers a deal. Spill what Bram did to Theo and they walk free. One soldier starts to talk back, trying to. Hard scoffing burst out of him as he vowed he'd never, ever betray his comrades. Cannon isn't buying it. She yanks him by the collar, fires up a flame in her hand, and dares him to show her his guts, warning she'll roast him chunk by chunk as a special service. The soldier's bravado evaporates on the spot. He shrieks like a man who just saw doom, and the threat lands so hard he blurts out every secret. Admitting it matches exactly what Cannon fears. He drops a bombshell. 4 years ago, Theo wasn't the one who attacked Feli's. It was Captain Bram, and he lays it out. Bram set the whole thing up just to trap Theo. Other soldiers shout at him to shut his mouth, but he's completely shattered. Nothing he says can stop. He tells them it's all over now, because Captain Bram is done for. Cannon thanks him for the testimony, and the rest of the soldiers finally get it. Their enemy is just too powerful for them to stand a chance. Cannon faces the shaking crowd and fires a question at them. Is anyone else out there willing to stand beside that testimony? She slides in a chilling, by the way, just to keep them on edge, while Cannon casually admits the wall of fire has been tightening around them for a while now, and then she bluntly asks, "Have you noticed it's getting a little too hot in here?" With a snap of her fingers, the crushing pressure shatters, right in front of them. The soldiers finally cracked, spears clattered to the ground, and they threw up their hands, surrendering without a fight. With the squad shattered, one more soldier steps in and speaks the truth out loud. Bram is the one who attacked Feli's. Bram erupts in a scream, hurling bastards at them, but the soldier won't shut up. He keeps talking anyway. He's been sick of Bram's tyranny and violence for ages, so he spills the entire list of crimes. Because Bram had ordered them to shut Theo up, used Theo as bait against the dragon to slip away, pinned the comrades' deaths on Theo, and then snatched all the credit for himself. Bram curses through his teeth as his reputation gets shattered. Then bam, voices explode in the air shouting Feli's, and Bram freezes, stunned. Shock hits because even after Captain Bram gets taken down, he's still blasting orders from the sidelines, screaming at Ferris like she's a complete moron for just standing there. He leans in and growls that she's the captain, then barks for her to do her damn job, right when Bram's screaming for her to cut everyone down. Ferris just stands there, trembling like a leaf, stammering nonsense as the pressure crushes in. Faris shakes herself out of it, blurts her full name, Faris, in the grass. With a shaky gulp, she steals her own courage and declares, "I'm a knight and the captain of the First Order, so I have to fight." She lets out a blood-curdling war cry and rockets forward, screaming that she's going to carve her opponent into nothing. The whole fight ends in a blink. Aqua, the dark-haired knight, snatches Ferris's weapon away and slams her to the ground, yanking her arm behind her back and pinning her there. With Ferris totally stuck in place, Aqua glares down at her and coldly snaps, accusing her as she finally realizes Ferris was the one who cornered Theo back then. Aqua won't let it go. She presses him hard, demanding to know if Ferris truly caught the truth lurking in his heart. She shoots back, how could Ferris watch Bram and Theo for years and never once doubt them? Aqua snaps that she's only acting blind to hide the truth. She blames everything on Theo, because it's the easy escape, and Theo just stands there, stunned as it all lands on him, while Ferris completely falls apart in the middle of the interrogation. Face down in the dirt, she chokes on tears and begs Aqua to just go on, kill her. She keeps blurting out apologies again and again, like she can't stop trying to fix what she did. The narrator points out that Ferris tried to turn herself into an unfeeling doll to survive, but now her heart is exploding, like a dam smashing apart. Theo just sits there, silent, while she keeps crying and begging for forgiveness, and the sight hits him hard, flipping his thoughts into a storm as he wonders what he ever could have done back then if he'd been standing in her shoes. But just as the tension peaks, Captain Bram suddenly rakes the earth with his claws, scoffing like, "This is boring," and kills the whole moment. Even with injuries ripping through him, Bram snaps at the top of his lungs, telling them to stop wrapping everything up so tidy, because nobody wants some weak, bargain bin sob story. Alvin stares down at the chaos, growling that Bram's got a mouth bigger than him, and even with Bram beaten on the ground, she's still snarling threats, while glaring up at the cannon and swearing she'll rip its tongue out. Cannon isn't rattled one bit. She bends down, taunts him, and dares him to try it, then laughs and adds that she'd be dead for sure if he actually went through with it. She scoffs at him and Bram's fury skyrockets. He blares that they're officially wanted men now. Cannon just laughs and says, "Then I guess I'll have to kill the Knight Commander." Alvin keeps watching her act up again, grumbling that her mouth never shuts, and he can't believe a guy like Bram is really a knight captain. All at once, a fresh voice slices into the conversation from off-screen, backing them up. Yeah, it's a total headache, but she's also a captain of the Knights, technically. Ray, Alvin, and Cannon all snap still in the same instant, every nerve screaming that something is coming. Before anyone can even react, a blur of motion crashes into the group. Cannon takes a brutal hit and gets launched flying backward with a sickening thud. Cannon slams to a stop, yells Alvin, and warns him this attacker is dangerously strong, while Alvin watches the newcomer with a grim, cold stare. Then it hits them, they're not messing around anymore, because the person standing there is the real captain from the First Night Order. In the back, the soldiers erupt into wild cheers as they spot Captain Yui. Yui stands poised and elegant, quickly smoothing her dress, and tells them she's truly flattered by all this. Yui doesn't waste a heartbeat on pleasantries. She rockets behind Ray and whips her sword through a deadly arc, and Ray catches the blow from behind without even turning, the metal crashing loud in the air. Ray stays calm and calls it out. "That's pretty cruel, attacking from behind like that," he says. Yui huffs a little laugh like she can't help it. They both rock back in sync, launching themselves away to put real space between them. Ray squares up with her opponent and eases her sword down, realizing Yui's been right here the whole time. Yui glances back with a gentle smile, but the sadness creeps in, because Ray, like always, couldn't care less about anyone else. Her gaze turns razor-sharp as she finally says she's always heard the rumors about Ray, then the conversation just drops dead. Yui and Ray shoot forward and slam their swords together, sparks exploding like fireworks between them. Across their blades, they lock eyes and refuse to blink, an S-rank adventurer and the knight captain caught in a deadlocked stalemate. Ray and Yui are caught in a blazing, high-speed duel. Steel screams as their blades crash together, while Yui drives her rapier forward with terrifying precision, pinning Ray to a non-stop defensive fight. Blasts hit like a storm, and Ray barely catches each strike on her blade before the force slams her back. Alvin stares at the whole exchange, sweat pouring down his face as his nerves scream. Yui's power hit him instantly. He couldn't deny how seriously strong she was. Yui finally slips back to put some space between them, letting out a heavy sigh like she can't believe this fight never, ever ends. She eases her weapons down and leans in, asking Ray if they should strike a deal. Ray freezes mid-breath, keeps repeating the word, and Yui pushes hard until she gets him to finally say what it means. Yui locks in on her, serious as steel, jabs her blade straight at Ray and lays down the deal. Ray Silverhorn has to stop being an adventurer, right here, right now. She promises that if Ray says yes, she'll back off the other three, let everyone go home peacefully, and won't grill them again. The whole group erupts in protest, yelling that Ray can't be the one forced to take the hit, yet Yu just flashes a cool smile, like of course the leader gets blamed first. Alvin can only clench his jaw and grind through pure frustration. Cannon finally snaps. She screams at Yui to back off, rage burning as she can't believe she had to sit through all of Yui's nonsense. She screams that Yui's being totally unfair, because it was her subordinate who kicked off the whole mess. Then Yui stays cool, admits it might have been the spark, and insists she doesn't want to turn this into a scene. She whips her gaze to the massive hole in the wall Kanon cracked earlier, admits she can't just ignore damage like that, and taunts them, daring anyone to say who in the world would be that barbaric. Yui doubles down and presses them hard, demanding to know what they're planning next. Then she shrugs and says cutting one adventurer's license loose is a small price for getting everything settled. With Bram crumpled and defeated on the floor nearby, she realizes someone has to own what spiraled everything into this mess. She locks eyes with Theo and says it still holds true, no matter what they did to protect someone they love. Ray locks in her decision, stares Yui straight in the face, and demands a swear, because if Yui walks away, she must promise she'll never lay a hand on Theo again. Yui grins and nods, saying the Knight's official records say the man is dead, so the Theo standing right there is just some civilian who happens to share the same name. Canon Panic is screaming at Ray not to say yes to the deal, but Ray just flashes a smile, turns back and tells them, "Get out together." Alvin yells her name in pure desperation, but Ray shuts her eyes and agrees. All right, and the second the deal is locked in, Ray rips off a massive U-turn like she's done waiting. She locks eyes with Yui and drops a heart-stopping apology, then blurts the truth. Quitting isn't just hard, it's impossible. Alvin, Theo, and Kanon are all frozen in place, mouths hanging open, hit with pure blinding whiplash. Yui is a total mess, sweating, stammering, and blurting out, "Do you really understand what's happening?" Ray nods and says she's got it, but Yui still can't bring herself to do what Yui needs. Yui scrambles to understand, pressing Ray on how she'll take responsibility for the mess if she won't quit. Ray cuts her off with a blunt, "We just can't take responsibility." And when Yui asks if she's really okay with getting caught, Ray admits it'd be kinda hard. Kanon lunges in, panicking about Theo, but Ray cuts in fast. Yui already confirmed he's been declared dead, and they're dealing with it. Yui can't believe this logic. She blurts out that Ray is really planning to pay zero costs and just head straight home, like she's coming back from a casual shopping trip. Race grins with pure cheer and blurts, "Nope," like it's the final answer. Hope watches Yui hit a wall, then a heavy sigh bursts out of her. She throws up her hands and admits, "Fine, this time I have to let it slide." She spins around, gives Ray a sharp look, and tells her, "You've always been stubborn like this," calling her Reiwen-sama like it's impossible to ignore. Theo laughs nervously for a split second, then his brain finally catches up, and he freezes, blurting, "Asama." He just stares in total shock as the truth hits. She's his sister, and so is the other one. Yui suddenly realizes she never properly introduced herself, so she boldly says, "I'm Yui Silverhorn, Ray's biological sister." Theo finally clicks and realizes exactly why that Knight Captain is freakishly strong. It runs in the family. Yui tells Ray she should pop by the family home once in a while, so she can finally show her face since there. Her father's dying to see her. But then her expression flips from warm family mode to full-on seriousness, like she's about to face the real problem. Then, in the next scene, Alvin spots something pathetic inching across the floor. It's Bram. The corrupt captain rips into Yui, screaming if she's really just going to let this slide without consequences, then declaring it a disgrace to the Knights. Yui snarls back, "Yeah, pretty much." Bram thinks he's in the clear and blurts out, way too thrilled, that he wants Yui to punish Ray's crew. Then Yui whips around and locks him with a terrifying, shadowy stare. She fires back, "So what exactly are you misunderstanding?" Then she makes it clear there'll be consequences, but she presses on and spells it out. That's what she's talking about. Bram's face just goes totally blank like, "Huh." Yui looms over the terrified man, staring down at him like trash, and rips into him, telling him his shady schemes should have stayed hidden, that this is exactly what you get for trying to play above your station. And she fires off his mistakes one by one. His crimes got exposed, the fort got raided, and now he's staring at the wreckage of a colossal blunder. She snaps that his incompetence stirred up chaos so massive it dragged her, the commander herself, out to deal with it face to face. She challenges him, asks if he thinks he's a big shot, and then warns him he's about to feel the crushing weight of wasting her time. Bram crawls on the dirt, bawling for mercy like a lost cause, but Yui shuts it down. No forgiveness, no sympathy. She snaps at him, roasts him for what kind of answer that is for a captain, then tears into him for zero responsibility, only caring about himself. With a straight face, she finally blurts out that she's got zero responsibility in her bones. She only took the job because her father ordered her to, and that's it. Theo watches them and thinks, "Man, dealing with her sounds brutal." Then he lets out a small wave of sympathy for the poor guy. Yui snaps her focus to Theo and tells him, "I've got a question for you." Yui leans in and fires off, "Theo, what do you want for Bram's punishment?" Bram clocks the opening and wastes no time. He starts groveling to Theo on the spot, begging for forgiveness and admitting he was totally in the wrong. He tries to twist the moment, telling them to just pretend it never happened and head home together like it's all friends, and Theo stares down at the man's desperation, ice cold in the eyes. He tells Bram point-blank that no matter what happens, he'll never forgive him. Bram's attitude flips instantly the moment Theo rejects him. He loses it, screams that Theo's a bastard, and snaps at him to stop mocking his kindness. Yui storms in and snaps at Bram to shut up. She dumps a bottle of liquid right over his head, and he takes it full force. Bram flails in panic, screaming that she's waterboarding him and he can't breathe. But then he freezes, shocked, because the liquid isn't burning him at all. Bram stares in shock, his wounds are totally gone, and then he erupts in joyful laughter, celebrating that he's finally fully healed. He whips around to Yui with a massive grin, bragging that he could feel she truly cared about her people deep down. Then Yui snaps her sword up, points it at him, and calmly warns that if he takes one more step, she'll cut him down. Kanon glares in disgust and snaps that Bram is truly the lowest scum, while Yui can't stop wondering if it'd really be a problem to kill him. Yui drops the hammer and declares that Bram is going to be a criminal slave from this moment on. Then she smirks and says that's precisely why they healed him. They kept him alive and healthy so he can work. Bram's expression snaps blank the second those words hit his brain. Words, Theo grins, leaning in to tell him. Bram collapses in a panic, screaming for mercy, begging for anything to change his fate, but Yui doesn't even flinch, declaring the decision is final. Right next to them, Ray quizzes Theo about what a criminal slave even is, and Theo lays it bare. It's the brutal punishment for sins so heavy they're worse than death. The story keeps digging into this hell on earth, where the prisoner is chained to brutal labor to pay for their crimes, and the worst part is pure cruelty. Even if they collapse or their mind shatters, they're dragged back to life with forced healing, just so they can keep working until the debt is finally paid. Yui beams and waves him off, urging him to do his best. Then Bram shrieks as magic comes crashing over him. Then Bram gets tossed to his punishment at last. One final terrified scream rips out of him as the magic swallows him whole and hauls him away, sealing the chaos he unleashed. Theo watches the man disappear, and a cold, burning stare locks inside his mind, because he's dead certain that no matter how many times Bram died, it still wouldn't even begin to tip the scales against the sins he's been stacking. The whole group goes dead quiet as the corrupt captain finally slips out of sight. Once the confrontation finally ends, the adrenaline drops hard, leaving Theo slumped, exhausted, and drenched in sweat. Ray steps in with a soft smile and tells him, "Look up." She extends her hand toward him, beckoning him to return to their home. Theo grabs the offer, and they start heading out right away. He thanks her, but Ray cuts him off with a playful nope, casually throwing her arm around his neck like they're best buds, while behind them, someone lets out a long, heavy sigh at the whole display. Kanon and Alvin keep watching as the pair walks off, and Kanon quips that Theo and Ray are already locked in their own flirting bubble, like everyone else doesn't even exist, while Alvin nods and says it's pretty unrewarding to watch. Hearing that, Theo frantically whirls around, blurts that it's a massive misunderstanding, and even says he's grateful to them too, while Kanon just flicks him off with a dismissive wave. Then Theo swivels back around and spots something on the ground that instantly grabs his attention. It's Ferris. She's on the ground, face first in the stone, bashing her head down and screaming apologies nonstop like her life depends on it. Kanon shoots the woman a glare full of annoyance, snaps that she won't quit, and Alvin steps in like, "I'll go hand her my peace of mind." Theo snaps at them to back off and leave it alone. Kanon labels him too soft, but Theo snaps back and sets the record straight. He's quick to shut that down. This isn't about being soft at all. Then he turns and walks away because, truthfully, there's nothing he can do for her. As they pass the sobbing woman, Theo leans in and tells Ray that salvation is basically garbage. He's convinced you can only save yourself. The crew bursts out through a giant tear in the wall, and with one last sprint, the chaos is left behind. Alone amid the wreckage, Yui watches them disappear, and she mutters, quiet but dead certain, that this whole thing was a complete disaster. Back at the wall, Yui stands shoulder to shoulder with her vice-captain Shilty, and you can practically see the stress crushing him. She chased after them, pressing Yui to tell her she was really okay, because Theo's crew just vanished, and she warned they'd turn into a real danger to the whole order later. Yui just smiles and shrugs like it's no big deal, and Shilty lets out a heavy sigh. Yeah, they'll deal with it when they get there. Then Yui grins and teases him for being so prickly, telling him to chill. She's riding high today because she claims she met someone absolutely fascinating. Shilty stares at her like she's lost her mind, asking if interesting really means Theo. He basically says Theo somehow roped Lady Ray, McCannon, and their whole entourage into doing exactly what he wants, like they're all under his spell. Shilty admits he's totally stumped, because Yui just met the guy, and he can't wrap his head around why she's praising him so hard. Yui fires the question right back at him, demanding to know what Theo sees when he looks through his own eyes. Shilty wastes no breath. He flat out says he's got zero interest in Theo, and he can't understand why anyone would even find him appealing. He insists that even if Theo was framed, the guy still got folded by Bram, a nobody, so there's no point wasting time evaluating him. Yui just waits, then flashes a grin and tells Shilty he's totally missed the point, because Theo's real power has nothing to do with raw combat strength. It's that terrifying power of his. He pulls people in like they can't resist the darkness. For a split second, Yui's face turns grim as she thinks, even if Shilty drags him into a fight, the result might not go the way anyone expects. But she catches herself, stops dead in her tracks, and suddenly worries about the timing of everything. Then a wild thought hits her. The Demon King sealed away for ages, a scary comparison, and she blurts out a laugh to knock it out of her head. She crushes a chunk of debris in her palm, then shrugs it off, like it's nothing but bad luck. Later, the story flips to a much lighter battlefield, the kitchen, where Ray scrambles to cook while Theo, arm strapped in a sling from his injuries, keeps a close eye like a grumpy coach. The kitchen goes sideways, 1 second that eggs sizzling like normal, and the next a giant pillar of fire explodes out of the pan. Ray freaks out, screaming for someone to slam the flames out. Cannon just stares at the disaster with dead eyes, totally stunned like, how on earth do you physically make a fried egg explode? Ray can't even hide it. He admits cooking is seriously hard. Theo bursts out an apology. He blames himself for getting hurt and not being able to do it, and Ray just mutters that she thought she could pull it off with his coaching. Meanwhile, Cannon practically pleads with them to just go for takeout. As the chaos finally fades, the tale snaps back to the past, back to a time so long ago it barely has a name. It all kicks off with an old, whispered legend from ages ago. It's the tale of a woman so ridiculously powerful with magic that even monsters couldn't help but fall in love with her. Before she even realized it, she was ruling over half the world, and soon everyone feared her name because she rose to become the Demon Lord. Then at last, the ones who dared to defy her showed up, and the moment they did, the whole world cracked open. This Demon Lord wasn't a monster at all, she was human. The human versus monster war raged on for ages, but then finally, one lone being was born among the humans, and everything changed. The hero stared down the Demon King, and when the power of justice hit, the king crumpled and got dragged into a brutal, long-lasting fall. A massive crystal swallowed the world into a deep, sealing sleep. A book slams shut with a brutal thud, right as a young noble girl with long twintails sits under a tree, frozen in the moment. And she lets out a brutal sigh, then yells that this story is mind-numbingly boring. Lady Tururu marches up to her butler, Alba, and snaps that she doesn't need him to read it out loud. She's memorized it so perfectly she could recite it in her sleep. Alba rushes in to calm her down before she loses control. But she waves it all off like it's kid stuff, saying the only fight that really matters is the hero versus the Demon King. Alba panics and reminds everyone that the Hero Festival is about to kick off. This is a make-or-break social showdown for the foreign lords, so yeah, every single person is on edge. Tururu waves off his worries, grinning that their land Astra is safe, and telling him he'll get sealed away too if he keeps stressing. Alba can't stop worrying that if she keeps pushing like this, Queen Charles is going to be heartbroken. Teru snaps out of it and decides, if they're going to act like this, then they're going to Lestoria. Alba panics and stammers that he still has to get ready for the others, but Tururu barrels in, saying she'll be fine as long as Alba stays with her. She walks off on her own, barking that he take her with him, so Alba spins into a full-on panic and scrambles to chase after her. Right now, Theo's staring at yet another kitchen catastrophe. He confesses he screwed up again, eyeing a plate with a scorched black lump on it, and Alvin, disgusted to the core, snaps that Theo should be the one to swallow that mess himself. Then the story snaps to the mansion's dining hall. Knight Commander Yui has shown up out of nowhere. Theo's nerves spike as he blurts, "Why are you here, and why so suddenly?" After the meal and that cup of tea were gone, Yui gives him a polite bow, gushes that the tea is amazing, and praises every bite as truly delicious. Theo's flustered as she thanks Yui, assuming she's here on business, so Theo tells her, if you're looking for Ray, she's out hunting right now. But Yui shakes her head hard and says, "Nope, I didn't come for Ray today." Yui snaps, saying she's here strictly for business, and it's Master Theo, not Lady Ray. Theo's face twists with total confusion. Pointing at himself, but Yui shoots back, "Yeah, me." She lays out the exact job request she wants him to take, and Theo shoots back, "Wait, do you mean work?" Yui tells Theo the hero festival is almost here, and Theo immediately blurts, "All right, what are we supposed to do for it?" He admits that back when he was with the knights, he never jumped into the festivities, he just watched them from afar. He suddenly realizes he's dragged up his dark past, blurts out an apology for killing the vibe, and Yui quickly tells him it's totally okay. She reminds him, "You used to be a knight, so you know that the hero's festival isn't just some carnival." They're throwing a full-blown celebration for the hero, who dragged light back into the world and shattered the Demon King's reign of endless darkness. She tells him that dignitaries from all over the world are about to assemble and run the affairs of state. And because they're the host nation, everyone expects them to carry themselves with way more elegance than anyone else. Theo starts sweating and blurts out, "Wait, does this mean you want me to cook for you, or do I play bodyguard?" She's demanding that he become the exclusive escort for a specific someone. Yui breaks it down fast. Turns out the mystery person is the Princess of Astoria, their next-door neighbor. "Neighbor," she finally blurts it out. This princess is insanely selfish and brutally hard to deal with. She tells how her own knights were nearly sobbing, begging, hands shaking to be released from the duty. And Theo suddenly gets it. Someone's framing him, and they're already setting the trap. Yui straight up says she's ready to hand him the role. Theo shoots her a deadpan stare and orders her to get out immediately. He snaps into panic, screaming that he can't possibly carry a responsibility this massive when he's just some ordinary guy, only for Yui to bulldoze in and tell him he's being way too modest. She tells him straight up that Ray Silverhorn is the only human strongest adventurer who ever truly opened her heart, and then she smiles, saying she's sure he's got a rare gift for getting people to open up too. Commander Yui lays out the deal in plain, sharp terms. Then she snaps that Theo can't keep leaning on that injured arm forever and asks him, straight-faced, what he thinks about the nightmare of being stuck like that permanently. It's an ultimatum dressed up like a job offer. Back at the house, the whole crew huddles up and tears into the proposed plan. Ray slams it shut at once, refusing to let Theo step into that deadly job. Theo starts to give in, reaching for the no button. Then Canon bursts in, all fired up, and steamrolls the moment with sheer enthusiasm. She insists the reward, magical healing for Theo's arm, is a total lifesaver, especially now that potions are scarce thanks to the monster outbreaks. Ray tries to scold her, but Canon shuts her down fast. Theo can't even cook worth a damn in his condition, so yeah, the job might smell fishy, but the payout is still too good to ignore. Ray slashes straight through Canon's logic and calls out the real truth. She just wants to eat a proper meal again. Canon panics and tries to squirm out of it, but she finally breaks and admits she's sick of those convenience store snacks. She's craving a real, hearty dinner, and Ray can't help but feel totally vindicated, because she now knows this is all Canon's secret, gluttonous plan. But Theo finally speaks up, admits Canon's right, and admits the truth. Living with one arm is hitting way harder than he ever expected. It can't just instantly jump on this. Still shouting that she told them so, she finally drops her anger. Ray softens her face and looks Theo straight in the eye, asking what he wants to do, no matter what the others think. Theo pauses for a beat, then weighs it out. Commander Yui didn't feel like some villain at all. And more than anything, he wants to cook up real, mouth-watering food for Ray and the team again, so he straight up tells Ray he thinks he's ready to take the job. Ray doesn't hesitate for a second. He shuts it down with one clear message: if you've made up your mind, then that's the move. They finally burst into the grand hall, and there's Yui, waiting with a smile greeting Theo like they've been expecting him all along. With a bright, happy shock, he practically couldn't believe it. He was here in time, ready to take the position. Theo pushes to speak, but Yui whips around, spotting the two guys behind him, and her eyes pop wide as she realizes who he's really brought with him. Yui looks straight up, amused that two S-rank adventurers are stuck playing escort. She swivels her gaze on the Silver Princess, and flat out tells her she's already satisfied just because she bothered to come, calling her by name, right to her face like they're old friends, Ryu and Asama. Rhea coldly snaps back that she didn't come here to see Yui, and Yui can't resist teasing her for acting icy, so Rhea slams the conversation right back into gear and lays down her one condition about Theo's employment, leaving Yui staring in shock. She makes it crystal clear she's stepping onto the mission too, acting as one of the princess's escorts. She tells Yui you can choose every detail of the job, but Ray has to be in it, no exceptions, or Theo won't touch this offer. Yui just nods along, calm as ever. Then Canon swings into the room, acting like she has no clue what her cheeky little sister's up to, while Yui can't shake the feeling she's dragging herself in just to keep a close watch. She stands there with total confidence, fires off the truth. Two S-rank adventurers as bodyguards is an insane bargain, and then straight up dares Yui, asking if she's really just going to turn down an offer like that. Yui's whole mood whips around. She snaps her hands together, grins bright, and blurts out that she gets it and accepts those terms on the spot. She lights up and tells them she's got zero reason to turn it down, and somehow, she feels way safer with them right there on escort duty. Theo stood on the sidelines, eyes wide, totally rattled by her sudden attitude shift, and stammered, "You're really sure about this?" Yui scoots in real close, whispering fast to a totally confused Theo. She admits it's a massive help, and then reveals she just locked in the best bodyguard's money could possibly get. She leans in and whispers that reminder. She already told him earlier she had a plan. She tells them that every other candidate for the princess's detail has been whining nonstop about it. So it solves everything for her dead on. Yui keeps talking, her smile dangerously sweet as she lays out her reasoning. She says, "If I let the regular knights handle this and something goes south, I'll just end up drowning in the fallout and doing the extra work myself." Theo's mind snaps into place. He stares at her, stunned, realizing she didn't just lie, she played him. He snaps that she planned the whole trap from day one just to reel the girls in, and Yui just bats her eyes, acting totally innocent. She insists it was just a personal request to Theo alone, and makes it crystal clear the girls chose to join on their own, no pressure, no strings. Yui got exactly what she came for, then spun on her heel to go. She shot Theo a grateful look, thanking him for saving her from a real headache. As she strides away, she flicks a look over her shoulder, wondering how far this man's power truly reaches. Then she calls out to him, addressing him formally as Lord Theo, and leans in, grinning, asking if they're ready to tear off and get going. The crew strides through a lush, over-the-top garden that wraps around a sparkling white gazebo. Yui gushes about how magnificent the garden is, and Theo nods along, until he admits that by day 3, it's just background scenery. Theo looks around at the wild greenery and admits it still blows his mind. Then Yui tells him the truth. The sensei they're about to meet is the last one who still cares enough to keep this place alive. Theo's now got his arm in a sling, and he blurted to Yui, "Wait, weren't you supposed to be on duty escorting the princess?" Yui leans in and tells everyone the princess still hasn't shown up. And listen, his arm comes first. She says it straight. The real work won't start until he's healed. Theo nods along, totally buying into her logic. They finally reach a wooden door draped in hanging herbs, and Yui grins as she tells them they've arrived at Master Fritz the magician's room. In a greenhouse-like room, plants and stacked books swallowed the air around him. Theo whips his head around and demands to know if the magician is really there, and Yui tells him, "Yeah, if anyone's coming, then he's here." She shouts for Professor Fritz, but there's zero reply, so she throws her voice up even louder and screams his name again. Out of nowhere, a dark shadow slices through the foliage. Then a hooded figure appears behind Yui and clamps onto her breasts with both hands, grumbling that Yui's been too loud, like she didn't hear her the first time. Yui gets groped as the figure blows past every boundary, even bragging that her assets are just as perfect as ever, so Yui forces herself to stay professional, tries to catch her breath, and tells her master she brought someone she's dying for you to meet today. The hooded figure whips their head toward Cannon and asks if Yui is pointing at that big-chested lady standing right there. After clocking Cannon's vibe, the mysterious figure leans in and asks if she can squeeze her chest a little. Cannon snaps back instantly with a hard, unwavering no. Yui steps in, spots Cannon as her sister, and snaps at the figure. She calls her Momiai-sensei, that she won't stand for a single rude word. The figure lets out a heavy sigh, grumbles that they're all so stingy, and then asks, "So who's the guest?" When Yui points at Theo, the figure jolts, only to realize it's a man. She recoils in disgust, snaps, "I really hate men," and yanks off her hood like it's burning her. She finally pulls her disguise off and reveals herself as a woman with glasses, braids, and a shockingly revealing outfit. Then she towers over Theo and hurls brutal insults, saying he's nothing but dead weight because his chest isn't worth squeezing. She surges right into his space with a wild, crazed look, barking that if he's not here for her to grope him, then what the hell did he come here for? Theo just stands there, utterly stunned, stammering like her wild logic makes zero sense. Theo catches a sharp scent in the air, and before he can blink, he knows it's cinnamon. Ray Silverhorn clocks it instantly, and when he points it out, he confirms the sweet scent is actually there now. Fritz's eyes light up as he tells Theo, "You're sharp, most people would have missed it." Theo's totally baffled. If he remembers right, cinnamon can't grow well in this country, so he grabs Fritz and blurts out, "How on earth did she pull this off?" Fritz clocks that Theo's got serious knowledge, like he already knows everything. She lays it out, humans crave what they can't touch, and nobles are basically the worst offenders when it comes to that obsession. She holds up the plant and calls it cinnamon herb, then breaks it down, she's crossbred regular herbs with cinnamon to forge a brand new variety that takes off fast and grows easy in the local soil. She confesses it was a brutal grind to bottle a scent so dead on, then smirks and says that with a genius mage like her, it's basically effortless. Theo just stares at the plant, completely blown away. Theo's eyes light up. This cinnamon herb means he can whip up way more kinds of dishes than he ever thought possible. Ray immediately blurts out, "So I can pig out on all the yummy food, right?" Theo nods and tells her, "Not just food." He's saying sure, cinnamon usually lives in desserts, but it's also pure magic when you stir it into sweet, hot drinks. Thanks, then her stomach growls like thunder, and she snaps at him to hurry up and whip up something, so Theo dives into brainstorming on the spot. In the background, Fritz fidgets like she's been slapped by silence, ignored while they trade recipes, and blurts out an apology like it's her fault, even though it is. Fritz cuts him off mid-conversation, throws in a quick nice, and then blurt, "So what's your name anyway?" He shoots back that his name is Theo. Without skipping a beat, Fritz orders him to follow her, and Theo can't help it. He's totally lost, blurting out, "Where are we going?" Fritz glances back, asks what's wrong, and Theo snaps out of his confusion, realizing he came here for treatment, so he quickly agrees to go. They stop at a creaky wooden door, and Theo blurts out, "Where are we?" Fritz just flat out says they're in her room. "Room?" Theo blurts out, "So you're really gonna treat me right here?" She snaps back and says it's a trade secret. Then, right as she talks, a dark, swirling ball of energy starts to churn in her hand. Fritz snaps him back to reality and reminds him she's a magic user, so Theo freezes in shock, staring at the energy and blurting that it's healing magic, then saying he's heard healing spells are brutally difficult. Fritz nods and yep, he's completely right. She lifts the swirling magic with a confident grin, then snaps that the challenge is exactly why everyone labels her the genius mage. Fritz completes her spell, and a cozy wave of warm light floods Theo's hand. As the light dies away, Theo drops his gaze in shock. His injury is totally gone, like it never happened. Theo clutches the jar of herbs, asking if she really means it. After all, she already healed his wounds and is handing him more supplies now. But Fritz waves it off, saying she can always grow more whenever she wants, and Theo shoots back with a confident pose, setting her own condition. If he's going to use those herbs to whip up something tasty, he'd better make sure she gets her share too. Theo blurts out yes without hesitation, practically shouting, "Of course I will." Suddenly the door rockets open, and a guard storms in, breathless and stammering that it's an emergency. Ray lets out a heavy sigh like, "Seriously, one man after another today." The guard panics and blurts for Lord Theo. When Theo steps in and says it's him, the guard immediately starts apologizing nonstop, saying he was only sent because Captain Yui ordered him to. Theo's stunned when he hears the bombshell. Astras's princess just rolled in, and he immediately clocks the real problem. They've left a royal VIP cooling their heels. Behind the scenes, Canon Ray's S-rank adventure buddy freaks out and blurts that she's gotta get ready, like, right now. The scene whips into the reception room. Princess Tururu is already barking orders, raging about how the chair is too hard and demanding it be swapped out right this second. Canon, now dressed as a maid to help, can't help but think, this girl is absolutely unbelievable. Teru keeps blasting her tirade, demanding to know why no one has brought her tea yet, and grilling them about whether they even know the meaning of hospitality. Canon leans in and hisses at Alvin in a whisper, asking if that brat even knows who she is. Then she snaps on a sweet little smile and tells the princess she'll bring tea right away. Canon steadies a cup of tea, convinced this girl is a wild, way more outrageous princess than she ever dreamed. Then the girl smiles and tells her, politely, to help herself. Tururu takes one sip, then snaps at Canon, calling her clumsy, and launches into a full-on rant about how someone like her wouldn't last a second in Astros. Canon loses patience, waves it off with a dismissive, yeah, so what is it? And the princess immediately snaps, yelling, "Hey you." When Canon shows Tururu disrespect, Tururu launches a mouthful of scorching hot tea straight into Canon's face. All the other maids, and even Alba, the butler, freeze in pure terror as that liquid slams down on the S-rank adventure. Tururu shoots back coldly and declares that the tea tastes absolutely awful. And then he basically insists that if anyone asks for tea, the only obvious answer is milk tea. Canon stands there soaked to the bone, shaking with rage, muttering that she can't believe this is happening. Then she blurts out an apology and tries to say she'll remake the tea, admitting that's exactly why she has to fix it, but Tururu just barges in with a smug grin and snaps, flat out, that she's flat-chested. That last line slams something loose in Canon. She screams back that the princess just has a childish taste and can't stand straight tea, and then she hits Tururukuli with the wild claim. If milk truly made chests bigger, every woman on Earth would be gulping it nonstop. Tururukuli fires right back that Kanon must have hated milk, and that's exactly why she's so tiny. Kanon shakes with rage, spitting out that she's been trying to bite her tongue, but she's at the edge now. Then she snaps back into control, looks the girl in the eye, and growls that her words mean absolutely nothing. Toru stammers and blurts out that she's a brat, but Kanon cuts in with a grin, slipping her one piece of advice. Her face hardens as she hurls a brutal insult, warning him that she might still have time to grow, but Tururu, that path could be gone for good, so she tells him to stand strong and live like it matters. Teruuru snaps into a screaming breakdown, yelling that you never truly get it until you're stuck, doomed to be flat forever. Suddenly, Alba lunges in and snaps. That's enough. He throws himself between Kanon and the princess, blocking him cold with a terrifying glare that totally breaks his usual calm. The butler finally admits it. Lady Tururu was brutally rude. But he begs Kanon to drop it, and Kanon's drenched in sweat as this guy's sudden pressure slams down on him, because now he's dying to know who the hell he really is. Just then Theo slams through the door, yelling Kanon's name at the top of his lungs, demanding to know if she's okay. Kanon stares at him, completely blindsided by how suddenly he barges in. Theo clocks the panic on her face and blurts, "What's wrong?" then instantly realizes he messed up. He scrambles to fix it, saying he didn't mean it like that, and pushes, "Did you do something rude to the princess?" Kanon stares at herself in full shock, screaming that she's the real victim. Then Tururu shoots in and barks for everyone to go silent, screaming at the top of their lungs that royalty is right there in front of them. She keeps ripping into them, even threatening to file an official protest with the country over how they're treating her, while Theo blurts out a shaky apology, desperate to calm everything down before it explodes. Alba dips into a deep bow, throws out sincere apologies, and tells everyone Lady Tururu is only worn out from her long journey. Tururu snaps at him right away, shouting that he needs to stop talking, and even as she protests she's not tired, she shuts him down while ignoring his outburst. Alba leans in and quietly tells Theo that Lady Tururu's got a real weakness for sweets, while the princess keeps screaming at her butler to stop making decisions on his own. After Alba drops that clue, Theo mumbles something, like it's got sweetness written all over it. He barrels straight into the kitchen, mind racing as he realizes this moment was supposed to be way later. He yanks out the herb jar Professor Fritz gave him earlier, and it hits him. This is the moment he's been waiting for, because it's time to cook that special dish, way sooner than he expected. We cut back to the kitchen. Theo's already grinding through it, snatching a couple of bright red apples and admiring their color like they're treasures before he gets to work. He chops them with razor-sharp practice, moving from one apple to the next like he's on a deadly rhythm. And then he flings the diced pieces into a pot, letting them simmer gently, and as he cooks, Theo's overwhelmed with pure joy, tears practically spilling over. Feeling an absolute rush, he finally let himself use both hands for cooking again. Again, he shoots himself a reminder. Ray and Kanon can't be forgotten. They need plenty to eat too. He slams the dough down and stretches it paper-thin, then brings out the secret ingredient like it's a game changer. The special herbs Professor Fritz handed him, like a secret weapon in plant form. He rains the sauce on top, generously, until it's perfectly coated. Theo neatly filled the tart shell with that herb-infused apple filling, then laid thin strips of dough across the top, weaving them into a crisp lattice. Once it's all put together, he shoves the entire thing straight into the oven and starts baking. In the dining room, the vibe turns shaky fast. Everyone's growing restless by the second. Someone gripes about how fast everything's moving, and Tururu snaps, "How long are we waiting?" while Theo's out there yelling, insisting she's starving. Ray admits he's moving way too slow, but Kanon's eyes suddenly sharpen. She realizes if it's taking this long, he's definitely cooking that one specific dish. Alba stares at the two adventurers, nerves frying, because those "we've got this" smirks on their faces don't look playful at all. They feel genuinely creepy. Creepy as hell, finally, Theo stomps in apologizing for the wait, and Kanon snaps at him on the spot for being late. Tururu stumbled onto the stairs, totally thrown off, and blurted, "What the heck did I bring myself into?" Theo shoves the cart onward and tells you the whole baking thing just needed a little time to finish. He drops a whole pastry in front of them and announces it like it's their legendary special, an apple pie made to steal the spotlight. As the scent drifts through the room, Ray catches it instantly and blurts out that it smells exactly the same as before. Theo's grin split wide when she caught the special ingredient, and he slid a slice of the pie mint piled on top, right in front of Lady Tururu, urging her to take a taste. She tries to keep that haughty act going, stammering that she's insanely picky about flavors, until the second she takes a bite and her eyes explode wide, her composure instantly shatters as she blurts out, This is delicious. Theo snatches into the tea and urges her to drink it right away this time, no hesitating. Time ticks on. Chururu tries to fight back, stammering that she always drinks milk tea, but Theo demands it be served black, so when Chururu takes a bite, her eyes immediately sparkle and she blurts out, "It's totally delicious." Theo grins and lays out his trick, making the pie sweet enough to shut down the tea's bitterness, so every sip leaves a smooth, clean aftertaste. He adds that even the flavors she usually can't stand might turn out to be totally worth it. Hit it big and make it fun, depending on who they get paired up with. And he promises that the next pie is gonna be even better, and Chururu just freezes, totally blown away by what he's witnessed. Meanwhile, while everyone drones through the lecture, Canon and Ray don't even blink. They're stuffing their faces with pie like it's the main event. Theo spots it and beams, telling everyone to just dig in and enjoy the food. Then Chururu turns to her butler, calls him Araba, and tells him he's gotta have some too. He grins back, says he already ate, and fully agrees it's absolutely exquisite. Canon locks eyes with him, serious as stone, and asks if he's really Araba. Araba, the legendary frontline guardian deity, says she heard he'd retired. Then boom, there he is, slaving away at a palace like nothing ever changed. Canon admits he got caught off guard earlier, but that only proves his skills are still razor sharp, and he's nowhere near done. Alba shrugs it off with a carefree ho-ho, insisting a quiet retirement has its own kind of magic. Suddenly, Teru snaps to his feet and jabs a finger straight at the cook. She demands Theo come work in her country, straight up, then declares on the spot that she'll make him her personal servant. The whole table, Canon, Ray, Theo, and even Alba, goes stone, still as that sudden proposal hits like a punch to the gut. Theo starts wildly flailing in panic, stammering that this hit's way too sudden, while Chururu keeps pressing, shaking it off and insisting it's actually a great deal, because serving royalty is a massive honor. She lays it out, saying this is way better than just cooking for a living, so he's got zero reason to refuse. Before he can even speak, she whips around to Alba and orders him to deal with the details later. Alba just bows and agrees. Then she calls to Theo, come to Astra as soon as the Hero Festival ends. Finally, Theo finds his voice, and with a polite but firm nod, he cuts in, thanking her for the offer. But then he bows his head, clenches his resolve, and declares, no, he won't accept it. Leaving Chururu completely stunned, he watches her bristle with offense as she blurts out, so you're really turning me down. Do you care that much about that *1 castle? Theo calmly shakes his head and tells her, no, that's not it. Then he leans in and makes it crystal clear. The one he serves isn't a nation or some castle, it's Ray Silverhorn alone. Chururu's face crumples as he points at the silver-haired girl and blurts, you mean that mercenary standing right there? Alba watches Ray, lets out a quiet chuckle, and thinks, this is gonna be a brutal mission for my mistress. He sizes up Ray's power and grimly admits that if he had to take her on in his old body, he'd get crushed, because there's no way he beats an S-rank adventurer. Kanon finally confirms it. Ray really is an S-rank, even if she looks a little pissed having to say it out loud. Ray rises like a threat, towering over the moment, and praises Araba's skills, but Kanon's eyes immediately snag on Ray's chest, and she blurts out jealous mutters like she can't believe what she's seeing. Chaos erupts as Chururu scrambles to buy Theo, tossing out 10 silver coins, only to get flat-out rejected. Kanon immediately shrieks that she's also an S-rank, then acts like everyone's supposed to judge people by chest size, missing the moment entirely. Chururu panics and ups the bid to gold coins, but Ray snaps it down with a sharp, no, then grins at her warmly. She tells you straight up that Theo means everything to her. That kind of importance can't be priced or bought. Chururu stands there, crushed and muttering, I just can't wrap my head around that kind of logic. Ray gives Chururu a soft smile and tells the young noble, one day, you'll find someone precious too. Alba chuckles behind them as Ray adds, and you'll get it the moment it's your turn. Chururu slumps there, defeated to the bone, then grits her teeth and finally admits she's lost this round. Right then, a thunderous voice blasts in from the doorway, and this giant of a man roars, saying it looks like things are about to get wild, and he shouts it straight to everyone. Everyone, boom, the intruder freezes in a dramatic pose, and it's King Dio Delistria himself. He shouts, demanding they let him join the fun. Alba freezes in shock, because he'd been guessing who it was, then he looks up and realizes the king is right there. Theo is completely stunned when the monarch plows into their gathering. The story slams us into the dining table. Alba shoots out his name with shaky nerves as Lady Chururu's escort. While Theo lays it all out for the others, turns out the king demanded to come and wouldn't take a single no for an answer. With the king seated, Yui and Dr. Fritz slide into the table too, and the king growls for everyone to dig in, until he takes one bite and freezes, calling out that this dish is packed with cinnamon herb. Dr. Fritz leans in, impressed that he'd pull something like that off so quickly. Even so, the king snaps on a stern expression and fires off an accusation. Theo used a prized herb without permission. Theo immediately spirals into panic, blurts out non-stop apologies, and swears he's ready for whatever punishment comes next. Suddenly, the king explodes into loud laughter and roars his approval. He tells Theo it's insanely delicious, then orders him to make it again. Theo stammers out a pathetic, okay, just to get out of it. Relieved it was only a joke, the king snaps back, he's hungry again, and demands something hearty since they're already eating. Theo panics and blurts that he'll whip some up right now. Now Ray jumps in, insisting she wants a bite too since she hasn't had enough either, and Theo is left there begging them to wait, just a second, while the orders keep stacking up. Outside in the town, the festival's coming fast. Everyone's rushing to set everything up and make it perfect. Two workers dropped onto a scaffold for a quick, breathless break. They lean in, smile, and basically say, "Yeah, it looks like we're actually going to pull this off and get everything ready on time." One worker leans over and whispers to his buddy, "You heard that rumor going around," and the other guy dodges the question, asking, "What kind of rumors are you talking about?" The first worker pulls the bomb off the hook, and suddenly everyone's buzzing. Rumor has it the Demon Lord could be revived at this year's Hero Festival, and the wild part is that chatter's been spreading like crazy lately. His friend starts to panic, brushes it off as just a rumor, and can't understand why anything that disturbing would even catch on. Then a woman with long hair cuts right in, shuts them down, and starts scolding them. They start mumbling about bad omens before the festival even kicks off, and the hero's heart sinks immediately. The workers instantly folded up, laughing through their nerves as they blurted out apologies for bringing up something so dark. Backed by the festival chaos, the workers are sprinting to finish everything. One guy tells his buddy they're not done yet, and the other barks at him to get moving. From the shadows, the long-haired woman who showed up before watches them fight, huffs a tired mutter under her breath, then tilts her gaze to the starry sky. She quietly wonders to herself how heroes and demon lords are just fairy tales, but some strange pull keeps tugging at her, right at this festival. Without anyone noticing, a sealed demon lord from a forgotten past is starting to wake up, right beneath the ground. The story snaps to the city streets. Festival crowds are packed shoulder to shoulder everywhere you look. Threading through the roaring crowd, Theo and Lady Chiruru push forward. Chiruru beams like she can't get enough of the world, while Theo is a total nervous mess, sweating buckets just trying to keep pace. Chiruru whips around with a giant grin, yelling at everyone to hurry up and move already. Theo keeps moving, and in his head he's screaming, how did it end up like this? Behind him, the whole escort squad, Alba, Canon, and Ray included, plods along with faces as blank as stone, like someone dragged them here against their will. They finally reach the building and rush inside. In the hallway, Alba slams the brakes and pulls Theo aside for a private moment. He turns to Theo, bows slightly, and blurts out that he needs to thank him for everything he did. Theo's face twists in confusion, and he blurts, "Wait, what are you thanking me for?" Alba flashes a warm smile and leans in to reveal it's all about Lady Chiruru. Theo hasn't seen her this happy in ages, and the second she shines, Theo's instantly flustered. He flailed his hands and waved off the offer because he was too desperate to survive the cooking challenge to let anyone else take over. But then Alba's whole vibe flips serious. He leans in close, and with a cold, heavy truth, he hammers Theo. Lady Chiruru isn't a child who was born between the king and queen, and Theo blurts out a shocked sound. Alba tells them the queen couldn't bear a child, but the king flat-out refused to marry anyone else. Alba keeps the tale going, saying the king used a complete stranger, an outsider, to carry the child and keep the air of things from breaking. That single choice blew a massive crater between the king and the queen, and little by little, everything around him started to warp, twisting the king's bonds with everyone who mattered. Theo realizes this whole family mess is what's driving Chiruru's behavior, and Alba admits he's already clocked what's going on. But she admits that his tragic backstory still doesn't give Chiruru the right to mess with everyone else. After Theo lets out that awkward little laugh, Alba drops into a deep bow and tells him, flat out, that he's got one request. Alba keeps grilling Theo in the hallway, urging him to keep an eye out for Lady Chiruru, just within whatever limits he can actually pull off. It's nothing, just some meddling old busybody trying to pry into things again. Theo stammers demanded answers, why him and then challenged his own ability, questioning whether he could really lead anyone at all. Alba leans in and reassures him with steady, comforting words. He's convinced Theo has some kind of special power, one that lifts everyone around him, and when Theo still hesitates, Alba steps in, grabs his confidence, and insists, "You can do this." The butler insists he's got it figured out, an old man's intuition guiding his every move. He whips out a folded handkerchief and shoves it into Theo's hands. Theo's eyes widen in confusion as the truth hits. It's a handkerchief. Alba snaps the handkerchief into view. There's his name stitched right into it. He tells them this could come in handy later if something goes down, and then drops the truth like a vow. This is the fullest token of sincerity he can offer as a butler. Theo throws him a grateful nod, but he's still drenched in sweat and totally baffled, blurting, "Why are you telling me all this, Alba?" Alba insists it's only a hunch, at least, that's what she keeps telling everyone. But inside, Alba dreams big. If Theo steps in, she's sure Tururu could rise as a brilliant queen, adored by everyone she'll rule. Once that heavy conversation ends, everything shifts. Theo explains that since the king loved the apple pie he'd made earlier, he's officially been promoted, and now he's got the job of taking care of Lady Tururu. With full authority roaring through her, Tururu barked, "Take me into the city now." So the whole crew spilled into the streets and took a walk through town together. They halt in front of a fancy building, and Tururu lights up, declaring the shop looks amazing, so they step inside. They stride into a luxury jewelry store, and the place practically dazzles them with glittering chandeliers and mind-blowing, priceless displays. Theo's eyes go wide as he whips his head around, whispering, "This is unreal, it's amazing." Alvin stands right next to him and tells him this is the best jewelry store in the whole town. Cannon is already tearing through the merch, and the second she spots something that catches her eye, she blurts, "Not a bad idea," and before anyone can blink, she grabs a massive diamond necklace and puts it on. Theo instantly loses his mind, flails his hands, and snaps at her as an idiot, panicking she'll scratch the pricey thing. Cannon just laughs it off, saying, "If she scratches it, I'll just buy a new one." Then Theo's mind snaps back, because no matter how she acts, she's an S-rank adventurer with money to burn. Just then another voice snaps Theo's attention as it begs him to look elsewhere. Meanwhile, Cannon slides a huge jeweled ring onto her finger, lifts it to the light, and swivels toward Theo with a bold grin, asking, "So, does this suit me?" Theo just freezes, staring at her like he can't believe his eyes, and finally blurts out that she looks so amazing he's honestly got nothing to say. Cannon starts pressing forward, snapping that everyone's attention belongs to her, and she fires back that the look really isn't that bad, yet the whole group just keeps staring at her, stone-cold blank. She snaps, unleashing a furious shout at Theo, Ray, and Alvin, telling them they're brutally too honest, and their lame reactions are killing her vibe, then demanding they finally start being a little more considerate. Ray finally breaks in with a deadpan look, saying it suits her flat out, and before the words even land, Kenan whips around and yells that Ray's more monotone than ever, demanding what he's even supposed to mean. Next display, Lady Tururu slips on a glittering tiara, then turns to Theo with a trembling kind of courage and asks, "Do you think it suits me?" She corners him, demanding the truth, and Theo's face floods with a blush, looking totally flustered. He looks at her, tells her straight from the heart that it fits her perfectly, and then just stops, utterly stunned at how insanely good she looks. Tururu's cheeks flare pink as he touches the tiara and blurts out, "Do you really mean it?" Alba lets out a little chuckle from the side, clearly thrilled that Lord Theo's praise has hit her just right. Theo reels at being put on the spot, but Alba hits him with the truth. When someone speaks from the heart, it hits hard. Tururu immediately turns away, covers her face, and admits the whole thing is kinda embarrassing. The whole group whips their focus to a towering gem sitting on display, glaring like it owns the room. Alba leans in and explains that this special gemstone isn't just valuable, it's meant to be handed to someone you truly cherish. Theo leans in as the butler explains that the stone soaks up magical power and even locks one single spell inside it. Theo can't help wondering if something that powerful could be twisted and misused, but Alba cuts in fast. There's a catch. That stone's magic only wakes up when two people who genuinely love each other step in together. Alba bursts into laughter, pointing out those hilarious cases where the gem just refused to activate. Theo snaps into action, and while he lets out an awkward laugh, Cannon in the background looks absolutely wrecked, clutching one of the rings as he realizes it's made of the same material. Meanwhile, Tururu gently presses the pendant at her neck, and when she recognizes that stone, her heart drops. It's the very same one her mother gave her, a warm token of the queen's love. But the moment her fingers make contact, a chilling thought slams into her. She can't trust something like that, not for a second. Lady Tururu storms out of the jewelry shop, blasting, "We're moving to the next location, right now." Alba and Theo lag behind her, then bam, she slams the brakes and stops dead in her tracks. swearing this next stop is the final one. Out on the street, the whole vibe snaps into a high-stakes duel. Kanon and Ray lock eyes, both deadly serious, and then someone shouts, "It's a match." Ray snaps at her opponent, daring them to bring it on. They lock eyes and burst into a no-mercy rock-paper-scissors duel, screaming like their lives hang on every single move. They both snap their hands outward at the exact same time, and a sharp pop cracks through the air. Ray gapes at the score and realizes it's just another tie. Kanon, still locked in and focused, nods along as the verdict lands. The two S-rank monsters waste no time. Right into the next round they charge, yelling "try again," non-stop. Alba watches from the sidelines and realizes these two aren't just strong, they're playing a whole different game than normal people. The narration says these elite fighters don't just react, they read every twitch in their opponent's muscles in the blink before that hand drops. And the moment they locked eyes, both of them snapped into action instantly. The whole thing traps them in an endless loop of ties that just won't let go. Theo just freezes, utterly clueless. Then, at last, both girls crumple onto the pavement, dead tired. Ray wheezes out that they've landed 30 draws in a row, and he can't hide that Kanon's gotten way better. Kanon snaps back that she never once believed she was lesser than Ray, and Theo leans in, glaring at the two panting girls as he asks why they're even running rock-paper-scissors again. Ray whips around to face him, eyes blazing with deadly seriousness, and lays out the stakes, because she risked everything just to get Theo to tell her, and yeah, it suits him. Theo goes completely still, stunned at how this whole mess exploded out of nowhere. Kanon shoots Theo a deadly glare and barks, "Shut up," because they're locked in a serious match, and Theo's words are straight up out of place. Theo panics and wildly flails his hands like he's trying to stop the whole world. He says winning won't change the fact that the words he's forced to spit out would never make them happy, so he shuts it down and swears he'll only give real compliments when he actually means every word. The logic slams into the girls, and Kanon finally drops his guard and admits they're right, while even Ray realizes she'd never be happy with a compliment forced out of someone. Theo seizes the opening, voice trembling, begging them to calm down. Theo hurries after the group, wipes the sweat off his forehead, and lets out a huge breath. Thankfully, they're all safe. Alba's jaw drops as he and the others burst out of nowhere. Theo spots Lady Tururu slipping away from the group, and the moment he sees her back, he knows she's drowning in loneliness. He whips around to Alba, blurts out an apology for cutting her off, and then decides he has to step in right now. Alba shouts for Lady Tururu to hold up, but she snaps back with venom, demanding whether he's not ecstatic to be finally rid of a nuisance. Theo barges in and realizes Alba must have heard something from her earlier. Then he drops his head, bowing hard as he apologizes for sticking his nose in. But still won't back down. He blasts Tururu with the idea that, even with all this intrusion, he could somehow help mend the bond between her and her mother. Tururu screeches to a stop, whips around, and stares at him like he's lying, then asks how someone like him could possibly help at all. She admits she has no clue what he's even trying to do, and Theo just calmly tells her to let him try one thing. The story snaps away from the street and slams into a blazing kitchen. In the kitchen, Theo slams the plan down. "We're cooking a meal tonight." Neil, Tururu stares at him like he's speaking nonsense and asks what he even means. Then Theo asks if she's ever cooked before, and she just cuts him off with a blunt, "Of course not." Theo refuses to get discouraged. He grins and says, "That's actually great," and somehow that promise alone makes it feel like it's going to be absolutely perfect. Tururu just won't buy it. He scoffs that a recipe is nothing but a small detail, and he calls out the person for blowing its importance way out of proportion. Theo cuts her off right away, blurting that cooking is a hassle and takes real effort, so that's exactly why it hits harder, because it shows your feelings to the other person. He tells her, "Learn this recipe I'm teaching you today, then make it for your mom," telling her with total confidence that the person who swallows it will feel exactly what she feels. Theo blurts that Lady Tururu reminds him of Roberta, then Tururu instantly bristles and snaps back, demanding what he thinks he even knows about her. Theo pushes past her attitude and declares, "All right, time to start." He slams a huge cabbage onto the counter and orders her to rip off the leaves by hand. He digs in with a kitchen knife and slices out the core. Theo kicks off the cooking lesson by asking Lady Tururu if she's ever held a kitchen knife. Then she immediately snaps back, all defensive, insisting she absolutely hasn't. Theo doesn't flinch. He tells her he gets it, then orders, "Start by gripping the handle." With his hands guiding hers, he shows her how to steady the cabbage with the other hand, and before long, she slices right into it. Tururu burst into pure excitement, yelling that it actually cut. Theo fires off the filling ingredients, minced meat, onions, breadcrumbs, and eggs, then tells her, toss them all in the bowl and mix it up until it's perfect. Teru pauses, face twisted in disgust at the raw meat's slimy texture, muttering that it's vile, and Theo just laughs it off, cheering her on to give it her best shot. He lays out the next move, ordering her to boil the cabbage leaves, then drain them until they're ready. Then they dive into shaping the meat mixture. Chururu carefully presses and molds a patty, nerves kicking in as she wonders if she's doing it right. But Theo lays it on her with a bold truth, telling her it's perfect, and suddenly her confidence skyrockets. Then he steers her hands, pressing the shaped meat right onto the ready cabbage leaves. Theo leans in and tells her to wrap the meat in a cabbage leaf. Chururu flips one into a neat little fold, proudly holds it up and asks, "How's it look?" before bragging that she rolled it just as well herself. Theo guides her as they cram the cabbage rolls tight into the pot, and he snaps, "Now pour in a little water. Pour in the consommé, then drop in a bay leaf at the very end to season the broth just right." The pot starts simmering, bubbling up like it's about to unleash something. Chururu leans in and asks what they do next, and Theo just shrugs. "We're done," he says. "Now we wait for it to finish cooking." Chururu leans toward the window, eyes wide with nerves, and blurts out, "Do you think Mom will really eat what I made?" Right then, outside the mansion, a carriage screeches to a stop, and the door swings open as a loud voice booms their arrival, calling out Lady Cheryl by name. A graceful woman spills out of the carriage like she owns the night, long, light hair, and she looks shockingly like Chururu. She stops in front of the estate, lifts her chin, and declares, loud and clear, that she knows Chururu is right here. Back in the kitchen, those cabbage rolls are blazing hot, steaming up a storm and smelling so good it practically dares you to take a bite. Theo's ready and Chururu leans in like, "So, it's time to pull them off the heat." Theo checks the pot, and yep, everything looks perfect. Then boom noise erupts from the front of the house, and he snaps his head around, stunned, wondering who in the world would show up this late. Theo shoots the unexpected visitor with questions, and the woman, polite smile and all, introduces herself as Cheryl, until she casually drops the bombshell that she's Teru's mother. Theo forces out a polite smile, asks if she really is Chururu's mother, and then wonders why she's here, right as Cheryl says she heard Chururu's been showing up at this spot. And as she keeps talking, gears start grinding in Theo's head like he's finally piecing something together. He suddenly clicks Chururu's not just noble, she's royalty, and that woman is her mother, so he's standing right in front of the queen. He totally loses it, blurting out in shock, stammering "Your Majesty," and Cheryl quickly confirms her fears. Right as the butler, Alba, rushes in, he exhales in relief and greets Lady Cheryl. Theo snapped to the butler, frantic, demanding to know if he was the one who called her, and ordered her to wait right here. Alba calmly nods and admits it. He sent the message by using a bird. Theo just stares, completely stunned at the thought of using a bird to talk. Then the door blasts open and Chururu marches out, grumbling about all the noise outside. She mutters to herself about how her cooking turned out, trying to steady her racing nerves as she steps into the yard. The second Chururu steps outside, she locks up solid, then stammers, "Mother," like she can't even believe what she's seeing. Cheryl locks eyes with her daughter, voice trembling as she calls her name, while Chururu freezes in stunned silence, staring wide-eyed like she can't move. But that shock snaps into raw, intense annoyance and seething rage. Chururu instantly throws up a defense. Cheryl finally blurts out to her mother why she had come all the way out here, and the pain on her face is impossible to miss. Stammering it out, she said she'd heard Chururu went out alone, and panic hit her so hard she couldn't stop worrying. Teru whips around and snaps, screaming that she never asked for her mom's worry in the first place. Cheryl's eyes gloss over with heartbreak as she thinks, "I never wanted this conversation to end like this," and in a shaky, saddened whisper, she calls out her daughter's name. Before the fight spirals any higher, Theo steps in fast. He pats Chururu's head with gentle care and tells her it's time to start cooking. Cheryl blurts out a totally baffled, "Huh." Right in the middle of that sudden interruption, Theo flashes a confident wink like he's got everything under control, then he smooths the tension like a pro host. He ushers Cheryl in, calls her "Your Majesty," and announces that Lady Chururu has cooked up a special meal just for her. Then he asks, right to her face, if she wants to stay and eat, only for Cheryl to stare in pure shock, blabbering that she can't believe Chururu actually cooked. The story whips us into the kitchen, where the pot is steaming like it's ready to explode. Theo blurts, "All right, it's time to open the lid," but Chururu freezes, jittery and scared to move. Chururu's spiraling sweat drips, worry gnaws at her, and she can't stop thinking, what if the food flops? Then she remembers Theo's coaching. He told her to trust herself because she's worked too hard to fail. But he also made it clear it wasn't done yet, and now Chiruru is standing there, completely baffled by what he just heard. Theo tells them we've got to pour all of her feelings into the final presentation. Chiruru cuts in, the cooking's already done, now it's just plating. Theo nods like, exactly, that's where the real magic hits. Theo lays out his philosophy. When you plate a dish with the person who's going to eat it in your thoughts, that food tastes way better. Chiruru shoots back, so you really mean just thinking of them? Theo nods and Chiruru's all flustered, but brave enough to try, even as she blurts out, it's not like I actually believe in superstitions. As she remembers her mother, she grabs the food and finally forces herself to admit the secret she's been hiding. That finished roll of cabbage glides onto the plate, ready to steal the spotlight. Cheryl freezes, staring at it in pure disbelief, and blurts out whether Chiruru really made it. Then Theo grins like he's proud of the world and confirms it. Cheryl steadies herself, swears she'll take the offer, and then she takes a bite. Cheryl's eyes flare up the second she tastes it, and she blurts out that it's delicious. Chiruru snaps his gaze away, cheeks blazing, embarrassed to the bone. She tells her mom she doesn't have to flatter her, and Cheryl swears with absolute confidence that it's the truth. They even start saying Chiruru could top their royal chef, and Chiruru snaps back, grumbling that her mom is always blowing things way out of proportion. But then under his breath, he finally admits it. If she truly means it, he's happy to hear it. Chiruru watches his mom, and inside his head he clocks the fact that she's smiling. Cheryl keeps smiling through the meal, and while her joy glows softly, tears quietly drip onto the table. Then Chiruru finally crumbles, sobbing hard as the truth pours out. She never wanted this moment to end. She shoots her mom one heartfelt apology for everything that's happened, and Cheryl softens instantly, telling Chiruru to raise her head. Cheryl snaps, taking the blame onto herself, and telling Chiruru that it's all on her, that her daughter was forced to suffer because of her. With tears streaking her face, she smiles and whispers to Chiruru that her rolled cabbage is even better than anything she's ever tasted. Then she breaks down, apologizing for how she's fallen short as a mother, and begs Chiruru to make it for her again. The U.S. Department of Human Rights, and then terror crashes in, overwhelming him so hard he sobs and finally agrees. Chiruru blurts out her mother's name, clinging to her like she'll never let go. At last, everything clicks into place. Alba the butler and Theo watch from the doorway as the reunion hits in the hardest way. Alba is visibly choked up, and Theo just grins, scratching his cheek like, yeah, it really worked out. Outside the mansion, the whole family hustles to get ready to leave. Then Cheryl turns to Theo and thanks him for everything. She tells him they're stuck in the country for a while until the Hero Festival kicks off, then makes him promise, don't you hesitate to come running if you need anything at all. Anything? The carriage rattles away. Theo just stands there staring as they vanish, and that family drama finally gets its long-awaited end. Back inside the dining room, the vibe flips instantly. Ray, Canon, and Alvin completely annihilate the leftover cabbage rolls. Theo realizes it's a lucky break he cooked enough, separately, because when they start asking for seconds, he's ready. With the chaos roaring all around her, Captain Yui calmly wipes her mouth, praises the meal, and says she just tasted Lord Theo's cooking for the first time. It's absolutely exquisite. And then Canon spots her, freezes, and blurts out in shock, wait, why is Captain Yui even here with us? What? Yui tunes out the outburst and zeroes in on Theo, praising how he pulled the Restoria family's mess into order, then looks at him like he's bigger than she ever imagined, and declares that Lord Theo is even greater than she thought. Theo blurts shaky, you really trekked all this way just to tell me that. Yui's smile drops to a dead serious stare as she tells him, there's more to this, we still have to talk. Theo catches the danger in the air, says he gets it, and pushes them to switch spots so they can talk in private. Theo pops up from the table and tells everyone, I'm stepping out for a minute, just give me a sec to talk. Yui whips around to Ray, telling her, it's fine, don't stress, and Ray shoots back a quick nod, ready to let them pass. But Canon can't resist one last jab. She smirks and asks if he's left already and scored himself a brand new woman again. She snickers and calls him a sly one. While everyone else at the table spirals into chaotic bickering, Theo slips away in a heartbeat with Yui. The moment they step out of the mansion, Theo leans in and demands to know what Yui really wanted to talk about. Yui read the look on his face and instantly knew he was hungry for more trouble because she'd clocked it. To him, this was just another headache waiting to blow up. Theo laughs in a shaky panic, then Yui cuts through all the small talk and jumps straight to the conclusion. She drops a massive bombshell. She's convinced the Demon King is seconds away from being resurrected. Theo bursts into terrified screams, stammering that this is way too sudden to be real, yet Yui barely lets him panic as she lifts a pendant and demands he look. She breaks down the hero's sword design and then reveals the blazing crest of light etched into it. the Silverhorn family emblem. Then she drops a brutal truth on Theo. Turns out the Silverhorn bloodline, Ray included, is made up of direct descendants of the legendary hero. Yui keeps laying out the grim truth, claiming a terrifying presence is crawling up from the Earth's depths and that the monsters are only getting nastier as they react. For her, that Demon King's seal is on the verge of snapping wide open. Theo tries to brush it off, laughing through nerves like, come on, that's a massive leap in logic. But in his head he's screaming, even if she's right, I can do absolutely nothing about it, I've got zero power. Yui smirks and admits Theo has basically zero martial strength to brag about, but she shoots back that he's got a special power. He can pull anyone under his spell the second he meets them. Then she stares him dead in the eye. And she insists his strength could be so powerful, it might finally get them all the way to the Demon King. Theo keeps insisting she's overrating him, but Yui only smirks like she's holding a secret. Who knows? Theo just freezes on the spot, overwhelmed, staring at everything she's about to say like, if she even tries to speak up. But that still doesn't make things any easier. Meanwhile, back inside the mansion, everything feels totally different. Ray's happily crunching pickled veggies, sighing like the food is light and amazing, and acting like the end of the world is none of her business. Back at the dinner table, Ray drops the news. She's got to leave again tomorrow for a monster hunt. She realizes the requests are stacking up fast, because terrifying monsters have been showing up more and more lately. Theo admits she's been swamped, but his face tightens. He warns her to be careful out there. Ray just shrugs with that deadpan look, flat out saying she'll be fine. Later that night, Theo sits alone in his room, eyes locked on the dark like it's staring back. Captain Yui's warning about the Demon King being resurrected won't leave his mind. Its weight sits on his chest like a curse. Suddenly, a sharp knock slams the door, yanking him out of his spiraling thoughts. He wakes up at that wild hour, dying to know who it could be, cracks the door, and then freezes solid when Ray's right there in a fancy off-the-shoulder dress, not her usual armor at all, while Theo lets out a loud, shocked, "What's up with that outfit?" Ray says, since we're not gonna see each other for a while, I figured tonight's the night we finally sleep together. She asks, is that not okay? And Theo freezes, stunned, with panic flooding his head at how she phrased it. Inside the room, Ray orders Theo to sit on the bed, and Theo obeys, jaw tight, sweating bullets, because his mind screams that nobody alive could possibly refuse a situation like this. Then Ray just sighs and drops herself down, flopping her head straight onto his lap. Theo jumps in shock, and she tells him to chill as she settles in. Lying across his lap, Ray tilts her head up at him with a calm, serious gaze, and then she vows, I'll protect you. She admits she doesn't know what Yui told him earlier, but she's quick to tell him not to stress. Everything will be fine. Theo scrambles to calm her down, saying it's fine and they only talked a little, but she's so locked in on soothing him that nothing else matters. And just like that, she's knocked out cold. Theo is freaking out, yelling that she fell asleep way too fast. Staring down at the girl who's been caring for him even as she sleeps, his hard expression melts, and in that hushed moment he swears, wordlessly, to never take it for granted. He vows to do anything for Ray, even as the world starts to twist into something deadly, and somehow, in the middle of all that chaos, he feels completely at peace. Theo strides through the crowded, buzzing streets like he's got a mission, realizing the entire town has already flipped into full festival mode. Right then a familiar voice snaps out, Mr. Barton, and it's Uncle Bartle, the vegetable shopkeeper, waving like crazy and calling out, is Theo out on his own today? Theo says Ray and the others are out hunting right now, and Bartle just nods. He gets it, they've gotta be busy, but Theo can't help staring at the mountain of groceries Bartle's hauling, and then Bartle suddenly snaps into action. He's fired up, yelling that of course he's stocking up, because the Hero Festival hits only once a year, and that's the best time to rake in real cash. So he has to bring everything he's got. Theo gives an awkward laugh and tells him to do his best, but Bartle instantly grins, turns the moment around, and says that of course Theo will be helping too. Right as Theo stammers out a shaky answer, a woman's voice slices in from off-screen and says, like she's repeating the obvious, that Theo's in high demand, just like always. Night Captain Yui sweeps in with her squad, and the townspeople instantly spot her. She bows with calm manners, and then the real trouble is about to start. Theo points out how weird it is to see her on patrol, and Yui admits the Hero Festival is coming fast, so they're beefing up security. While Theo's just standing there, Uncle Bartle is drenched in sweat, stunned that Theo actually knows someone this big. Theo looks confused, but Bartle is internally losing his mind. Remember, Yui isn't just famous in knight history. She's the prodigy who grabbed the captain title at the absolute youngest age ever, and her strength can rival even S-rank adventurers. Yui lets out a soft chuckle, and admits Bartle isn't totally wrong about how people talk about her. But she claims the real standout isn't some far-off mystery at all, it's the man standing right beside him. Bartle looks completely clueless, so Yui snaps her focus to Theo. She leans in, thanks him in full, and makes it crystal clear, because that other day's mess with Captain Bram, that help mattered. She tells me Bram runs deep with the underworld, but the investigation hits hard, so they rip out every last bit of corruption inside the order. She admits the cleanup left them understaffed, so she's been stuck on duty nonstop, and CO thanks her for the grind. But Yui lanes in and reveals she's got a request for him too, stepping even closer as she says it. Professor Yui grabs him in the moment and reminds him of what she said earlier, then drops the bomb. I've got high hopes for you. After that, she turns and strides off with her whole squad. Theo breaks into nervous sweat, muttering that he has no clue how to handle pressure like that. He clocks Bartle backing away, staring at him like he just witnessed a miracle, then shoots, "What are you doing?" And Bartle tries to play it off, but the denial barely holds. But deep down, he's already certain. Theo is the real deal, one hell of a man. Theo panics, wildly waving his hands as he blurts, "I'm just a normal guy. This is a total misunderstanding." Bartle doesn't buy it at all. He mutters that it's just some ordinary claim while Theo swears it's just a joke, but deep down, the name Theo keeps echoing in his head, drowning out his own denial. Meanwhile, as the knights pack up and head out, Schilte's face twists with worry. He snaps at Captain Yui and demands to know if this really is okay. When Yui asks what's wrong, Schilte snaps back in a fury, blaming that man and telling her she's painfully naive. Back with the knights, Yui keeps talking to Schilte, cuts straight to the point, and tells him they'll have to use whatever piece they can grab off that board. Schilte gasps in surprise, and Yui just shrugs and admits winning a fight won't be easy at all. But she makes it crystal clear that this situation and that one are two totally different things. Schilte finally admits she's right, but he slips in that he truly thought she'd just latched onto Theo for personal reasons. Yui cuts him down immediately, calling him out. They slam the idea as a bad habit, only seeing everything from one single perspective. Schilte shoots back, saying leaning on outside help would stain the knight's honor, and Yui just blurts, "Did you forget something important?" She absolutely despises anything that turns into a headache. She sees a grim future where the Demon King comes roaring back, and if that nightmare hits, it won't be anyone else who faces it head-on, it'll be the knights. She grimly insists that in a clash this brutal, the cost in lives is basically guaranteed. Just imagining the nightmare of cleaning up that mess makes her hate responsibility even more. Schilte blurts out the scary question, "What if that man fails?" And Yui just grins with total confidence. "Then when the time comes, we'll fight for it side by side. Together, that's what we'll do." She turns and stalks off, mumbling that there's 0 point stressing over problems that haven't even shown up yet. She slams the order down. Schilte, focus on the security maintenance right in front of him for now, and the knights immediately roar back, "Yes." As she walks out, the camera slams to Theo, frozen with a blank stare. Moving on to the mansion, Thea steps outside, and there she finds Alvin and Canon sprawled on the pavement, totally collapsed face down. He blurts, "What the heck are you two doing?" And they both spit out miserable little groans. Canon somehow coughs out, "I'm starving, I can't even move." Soon after, inside, the table's stacked so high with empty bowls, it looks like it could topple over any second. Canon pats her stomach and declares she's stuffed, while Alvin groans that he almost starved to death. So Theo, wrecked by their mess, begs them to just eat something before it spirals that far again next time. While Alvin brushes off Canon with a "good job" in the background, Canon snaps back at his total lack of appreciation. Then Theo slides a glass right in front of her. She leans in, eyes shining with curiosity, and asks what it even is. Theo grins and tells her it's a chocolate parfait they're getting for dessert. Canon bursts in yelling how amazing it is, swears dessert needs its own stomach, and then right away demands another one. Eyes locked on the meat, Theo blurts, "Ray, where'd you go?" Canon figures Ray probably dashed off to report the quest was finished, and Alvin snaps back that Ray told him he was totally fine on his own, so the two of them returned first. Canon checks the clock and realizes he should have been back by now. Right after the last scene, Ray finally comes back, then drops face first on the pavement outside, completely collapsed. Canon slumps over the table beside a pile of empty bowls, just as wiped out as everyone else, groaning that she ate so much she can't even move. She teases him for a rerun, and at the same time Ray slips inside and digs into a parfait like he's finally found peace. She tells Theo she forced herself to hold back her hunger all day, just so she could go all in on his cooking. And Theo, always the one who provides, slides the dessert to her with a warm smile. All right, Alvin, Kanon, and Ray are all lined up at the counter, digging into parfaits, and Kanon's grinning like crazy. Dessert goes in a whole different stomach. Alvin just smirks and fires back, sure, but Ray could have grabbed herself something while she was out. But Ray shoves him off and thinks, if I'm gonna eat, I'm not playing around. I need to be stuffed on Theo's cooking. Kanon admits the hard truth. She can't stomach regular meals anymore. And even Alvin admits it. Once you taste it, you can't go back to anything else. In perfect sync, all three of them raise their empty glasses and yell for seconds, so Theo just has to stand there and awkwardly accept his fate. Later that night, the whole house falls silent. Alvin and Kanon are knocked out cold, sleeping like the world can't touch them. In the kitchen, Theo tries to chop his ingredients, but his knife ricochets off the food like it's made of stone. He snarls and digs in with all his strength, but the blade just won't bite. It's totally dull. He stumbles back, realizing this plan isn't going to cut it, while Theo checks the knife and grumbles that the blade's edge is way too dull. Then he pauses, wondering if he should sharpen it for one last shot. Suddenly, Ray pops up behind him, her serious stare cutting through him as she snaps that he's dwelling on something dark. Then Theo panics and blurts a denial. He's not angry, he's stressed out because that knife won't cut right anymore. Ray snaps into action and tells him, I know a great shop if you need a replacement. And when Theo weighs it up, he nods. Yeah, it's time, so they pack up and head out. They roll up to the shop Ray swore by, but this isn't some cozy home goods spot. It's jammed wall-to-wall with colossal swords, axes, and brutal heavy chains. Theo whips his gaze around, stammering that he thought this was all about a kitchen knife. Then he swallows hard and admits the blades look deadly, because yeah, they're absolutely weapons. From the back of the shop, a rough voice barked, Yo, are you Ray? A giant, scarred blacksmith stomps forward like he's fought in 100 wars, then cracks a grin and asks Ray what she's trying to smash apart this time, betting it's a dragon or maybe a troll king. She wants a kitchen knife for home use, and the blacksmith starts sweating like he knows trouble's coming. He shot her a reminder, we're weaponsmiths, so you should probably head to a general store for stuff like that. He leans in for a closer look, and then smack, he freezes mid-sentence, staring in pure shock, while the blacksmith whips around to yell at his assistant in the back. So where's the knife you swore was made for the hero festival? The assistant calls back, telling him the guy grabbed it 2 days ago. With a sharp turn to his customers, the blacksmith tells Ray, if you'd shown up just a little sooner, I might have handed you that one. He tells them he just happened to forge another knife, and then he warns, get ready, here comes the details. He proudly boasts that he forged this brand new blade from a unicorn horn, and calls it something truly, unbelievably special. Theo freezes in pure awe, staring at it like it's priceless, muttering under his breath about that rare material. Ray just stares blankly and asks, is it really supposed to be that amazing? And the blacksmith erupts, of course it is. He brags that his knife is so sharp it could slice the whole kitchen in two, then he quickly cracks and admits, yeah, that might be a bit of a stretch. Ray snaps her head around the moment. The blacksmith notices her sudden interest, and decides right then she wants it. But there's a catch, she only gets the knife if she wins a contest, and Theo is left totally baffled. The blacksmith steps in and reveals the truth. This is a contest to crown the dancing shrine maiden, and that knife is the killer extra prize waiting for whoever wins. Ray nods along for a second, then slams the brakes and asks, wait, what exactly is a dancing shrine maiden? The blacksmith stares in pure disbelief as she admits she doesn't know it, firing off, have you never seen it once? And Theo, awkward as ever, shoots his hand up like, yeah, I'm clueless too. The blacksmith lets out a heavy sigh and tells him point blank that this is exactly what the Hero Festival is all about. Every single year, they host a contest to crown their rep, and that winner steps up to perform the ritual dance at the grand finale. Ray blurts out, is there still time to get in, before anyone can even blink. Theo panics and blurts, are you really going through with this? But Ray just confirms it, then shoots back, what, you got a problem? Then Theo nods off, dreaming up a future where Ray steps into that shrine maiden outfit and looks absolutely unreal. The blacksmith leans in and lays down hard truth. Your entry deadline is probably today, so you'd better sprint to the registration desk at the festival grounds right now. The camera swings to the town square, right as the chaos hits. Two tough guys are posted at the front reception desk, ready to take on whatever comes next. Ray strides straight up to the desk and asks, is this where we sign up for the contest? One clerk bumps his partner with an elbow and whispers that she looks way too familiar, and the other clerk freezes, staring like he can't believe it might actually be her. Nervous to the bone, he blurts out her name just to confirm it, and when she says Ray Silverhorn, the clerk immediately breaks into a cold, shaking sweat. He snapped to attention when he realized it. This was the real SRANK adventurer, standing right in front of him. At the registration desk, the crowd erupts into chaos the second they spot the applicant, Ray Silverhorn, the S-rank adventurer, and they're stunned that someone at her level would dare step into a contest like this. Ray tunes out the noise and fires a question at the receptionist. Has the deadline already blown by? The receptionist is totally rattled by her arrival, stammering that they're still taking entries, and he blurts that an S-rank adventurer will get an exception. He'll waive the usual requirements on the spot, while the crowd erupts in murmurs of awe, praising her as cool and insanely capable. Ray just shrugs and says her rank means nothing here, she's only showing up as herself. The receptionist flips into full fan mode, blurts out for her autograph, and Ray snatches the pen she offers and signs without hesitation. Right then, a woman with long dark hair comes charging in, roaring that they're trying to buy their way past. She shrugs off the whole S-rank thing, straight up says she doesn't care. With motives that wicked, Ray will never, ever be picked as the priestess. She screams at the top of her lungs that whoever her opponent is, she's never going to surrender her title as the dancing priestess, Theo. Totally blindsided by the sudden hostility, she swallows her nerves and asks politely who she even is. That just lights a fuse under her. She explodes into a scream. My name is Melia Lewitt, and she demands they remember the champion's name if they're really stepping into this contest. A nearby bystander is stunned. Theo and Ray have no idea who she is, so Theo finally blurts out an awkward confession. They're completely clueless. The bystander leans in and tells them, Melia's a legend. This dancer has been picked as the festival shrine maiden for 4 years straight. He adds that she's insanely popular, so much so that people flock to the festival just to catch her show in those jaw-dropping, elaborate gowns. The man quizzed them like, just rolled into the country, huh, and urged Theo to watch her at least once. Then Theo tried to play it cool with a laugh, insisting it wasn't really like that. Ray shoots back that she's not interested, struts away, and cuts right past Melia like she's barely there, coldly saying it doesn't matter who her opponent is, because she's winning either way. Melia's jaw drops at his nerve like, Ray's got guts for sure. As Ray strides away, she fires up her resolve and swears, no doubt, she's taking the victory. Melia lingers behind them, glaring daggers into their backs, while Theo finally catches up to Ray, scratches his head, and blurts out just how insanely intense that whole encounter was. Later, Melia walks alone along a stone street, chewing nervously on her thumb nail as worry tightens in her chest. Nail, her face twists with pure rage as she storms through a rant about that S-rank adventurer, furious that everyone's suddenly bowing and fawning over them. She storms down a dark alleyway, muttering that she'll never forgive what's happened, and swears she'll claw her way to that title no matter what the world throws at her. Out of nowhere, a hooded figure in the dark steps up behind her in the alley and asks, "Want some help?" Melia whips around and demands their names, but the hooded figure doesn't even flinch, just casually remarks that she's the world-famous priestess of the dance. And right as dread creeps in, the stranger coldly tells her, "This year you don't make the cut." Melia screams again, demanding to know who this hooded stranger is, yet the figure only smirks and snaps back that she's a rude guy, claiming he'd already answered that exact question just a moment ago. In the dark alley, the hooded figure lunges a hand toward Melia, claiming, "I just want to help you." The narration whips us forward as the destined festival day creeps closer, and at night Melia trudges through the city streets, looking utterly troubled, while the knights in Theo's group bust their tails everywhere, hammering out their final preparations for the big event. The whole mood flips instantly. Boom, loud music erupts from a row of speakers. Inside a dance studio, a curly-haired instructor with pure fire in her eyes rallies the whole crew, blasting her belief that dance is singing. Then she screams at her students to throw every inch of their body into the message, urging them to go all out today and keep that energy blazing. Cannon, Ray, and Theo are locked in their workout gear, absolutely buzzing with energy, and they yell out a thunderous yes. The instructor snaps to it, calls out that the music is about to start, and slams the play button on the cassette deck. When the beat hits, Ray locks in with sharp focus, and all three of them lift their hands together in sync, ready to launch into their routine. The three of them move like one, snapping into a one-leg pose as they yell "Hey!" together. Together, they snap straight into a new formation, shouting wonder as they beam with massive grins. The instructor keeps locking eyes with them, cranks the pressure higher, then erupts in a full-throated shout, "Finished death," to drive them straight into the finale. Cannon's grinning ear to ear as she dances, light on her feet, totally lost in the choreography and clearly loving every second. Right beside her, Theo and Ray match her energy perfectly. Both of them grin like they own the moment, hitting bold, flashy poses as sparkles practically burst around them. Back at the studio, the crew drops into a breather, water bottles clinking on the floor. Theo wipes the sweat from his brow and says the dance today felt unreal, and Kanan nods hard, grinning because they're finally starting to move in sync. Smiling, Theo lines in and drops the big question. If they keep pushing like this, does she really think they can win the tournament? Ray immediately jumps in, telling him, of course you can, but right when hope hits, the moment snaps hard. Her expression snaps into fury as she shrieks that it's obviously impossible, and Kanan immediately goes on the attack, firing off a heated lecture, demanding to know what the shrine maidens of dance are even supposed to be for. She tells you plain and loud, dancing isn't just for show, it's a sacred ritual, an offering meant for the hero. She snaps at them, saying those flashy modern moves scream disrespect for tradition, and before Theo can even get calmed down out, she throws herself into a dramatic pose and roars, absolutely not. She insists dance is pure emotion, copying their wild teacher's final, eerie mimic, catchphrase. Outside the building, Melia stares through the window at their practice with full-on disgust, muttering that they're nothing but a bunch of jokers. Inside, Kanan keeps chewing them out, barking that they've got to start by studying history, and the whole group instantly folds, squeaking out, yes, ma'am. Outside again, Melia's rage shakes her to the core as she swears she'll never fall to losers like them again. Then she storms out of the studio, walking down the street while scratching her head, furious and fed up. She can't shake the feeling she's just overthinking everything, and she starts trying to calm herself down, only to. She thought even if that woman was an S-rank adventurer, she was still an absolute rookie when it came to dancing. She keeps telling herself this. If she ever gets beat by someone like that, then something's gone seriously wrong. Melia huddles in a shadowy alleyway again, facing that hooded figure, and when he speaks, her fears slam into place. The tournament is rigged, and the winner was picked long before the matches even began. He leans in and asks her, didn't it feel weird to you that an S-rank adventurer jumped in like it was totally normal? Leaning in close, he drops a jaw-dropping bombshell. Ray Silverhorn and this nation's knight captain are actually blood relatives, right through the bone. Melia goes completely still, frozen in pure shock. With her voice shaking, Melia blurts, so what, and pushes him hard, demanding to know how he's got that information in the first place. The hooded figure gives a smug little chuckle and hints he's got a special kind of connection, then shrugs and says it doesn't really matter where it comes from. He shoots his hand up to cut off her questions, making it crystal clear she's not facing an enemy, he just doesn't want her to misunderstand. He slaps his hand on the brick wall, lights up a glowing magic circle, and tells her straight up he's here to help. The story snaps into a darker corner, then a heavy stone door grinds aside as it slides open. Unmasking this hooded figure, frozen in a swirl of dust and shadow, Melia stands right behind him, eyes bulging with fear as her words stumble out in a stammer. She stares down in disbelief. There's a staircase plunging straight into the earth, and a hidden basement waits beneath her feet. The hooded figure beckons her closer, urging her to follow, then tells her, straight to her face, that from this moment on, it's just the two of them. As they start down the stone steps into the black, he leans in and pushes for a secret talk between them. Melia trails right behind him, eyes blazing with suspicion, and presses him hard, demanding to know exactly who he really is. And if he's really the man she thinks he is, Melia scans the stone walls as they move deeper, stunned that a place like this even exists inside the city, while the hooded figure just says, nobody knows about it, just the two of us now. Melia corners him and keeps pushing, demanding to know his goal and why he dragged her to this secret hidden spot that feels almost sacred. She waves off her fears like they're nothing, brushing it off with the claim that it's just a simple story. Beneath his hood, a creepy grin spreads as he straight up admits he loves watching her dance. Back in the city, the festival is roaring at full blast, streets packed with mouthwatering food stalls, and someone just goes, man, everything looks insanely good. Lady Tururu takes a bite of a skewer, eyes it like a critic, and calmly declares the flavor just decent. Nearby, her mother, Lady Cheryl, stared at the meat she was cooking with a strained, troubled look, only because her worries were coming from somewhere totally different. She blurts out, should we just buy the whole place and hire cooks as our personal chefs? Theo, already breaking into a sweat, shoots it down fast, saying that's probably a little too much. Just then, Kanan spots the young noble and shouts for Lady Tururu, while Theo freezes in shock at running into them like this. The reunion hits like a storm. Right away, it's pure chaos. Ray shovels food into her mouth, blurting out muffled gibberish, and it earns her a. Kanan shot a sharp rebuke and demanded she start acting with manners like a proper lady. Kanan whips her gaze to Tururu with a smug grin, praising how she's blossomed into a real woman, while Theo scrambles to calm things down, and Cheryl beams, practically giddy about how great the girls get along. Teruru snaps right back. No matter how people change, Kanon's flat chest hasn't budged an inch. Kanon snaps that they're not really friends, and Teruru erupts right after, screaming that they absolutely don't get along. Captain Yui strides up to the group, smiling like she already knows the truth. No matter how hard they try to deny it, those two girls clearly click and get along. Theo greets her and fires off, "You on patrol," but Yui shakes her head and tells him she's off duty today. That day she smiles and asks if she can tag along. Kanon jokes about whether they should be caught, and Theo just shrugs, admitting they're totally slacking off on practice. As they walk, Yui blurts, "So what are you doing?" Theo explains their training for the Hero Festival dance, and Yui freezes, then gasps in pure horror at the misunderstanding. She blurts out, "So is Theo gonna be a dancing priest?" And Theo snaps back fast, fixing her right there. Yui blurts that would be ridiculous, then snaps the truth, "Ray's the one dancing," so hard she freezes, repeating "my sister" over and over in total shock, still trying to process it all before telling her sister, "I didn't even know you were interested in dancing." Ray's just dancing, and she casually drops that she only started 3 days ago. Yui keeps pushing, asking if she's interested in the title Dancing Priestess, but Ray shuts her down fast, flat out saying she's never even seen one. Yui stammers, completely baffled. Why is she even entering the contest if she doesn't care about the title at all? She flashes a beaming smile and finally lets it out. She's after the championship prize knife, plain and simple. Yui slumps at the truth, and suddenly it all clicks. Of course, that's exactly what her sister wants. Theo's jaw drops at what he's seeing, but Yui only exhales and tells Ray it sounds like she's still living the dream, then admits she was wrong to chase some deeper meaning, and Theo cuts in fast, even though he hasn't gotten a word out yet. Right as he thinks he's good to go, his stomach screams with a loud growl, so Kanon blurts out that she's hungry, and Ray immediately hits back, demanding a proper hearty main dish. Theo finally gives in with a heavy sigh, saying he'll cook up something at home, and the second he says it, the two girls erupt in cheers. Lady Teruru pumps her fists, grins at everyone, and cheers, "Let's all eat together." The whole group whips around in shock as she suddenly turns bashful, fiddling with her fingers and mumbling that food tastes way better when you share it. Right then, Lady Cheryl chows down on a skewer, while Yui and Alba beam at her. Theo jumps in immediately, agreeing with full-on excitement. Telling Teruru she's spot on and praising her mature thinking, the whole crew erupts into cheers for the meal plan. Then Teruru instantly snaps and flips out. He raged at the sky like a kid being unfairly grounded, then swore he'd spark another rebellion. Before they knew it, the table's packed with roast chicken, juicy steaks, and fresh salads, and this dinner party is an instant, total hit. While Kanon, Ray, and Theo dig into their food and trade stories, Cheryl and Teruru savor every bite side by side. Then Yui raises her cup and shares a drink with the butler, Alba. At last, the guests start waving goodbye, and the moment they're gone, the table is left littered with empty plates. When night drops and a full moon hangs overhead, Theo gets stuck at the sink, scrubbing through the cleanup like it's his only mission. Theo scrubs the plates, still stuck on how much everyone devoured. He laughs and admits it was totally worth the work, but cooking 9 servings in one go has completely wiped him out. While he works, it finally hits him. This is his first ever Hero Festival, and the moment he gets that thought, the past crashes back in. Back when he was in the Night Order, they'd never, ever have signed off on going out just to have fun like this. He grins to himself, genuinely hyped for the festival. We slam into a brutal flashback of Melia's home life. One sharp slap cracks through the room as her mom hammers her across the face and roars for her to focus and dance the right way. The woman towers over her daughter, screaming her name and slamming the air with pure pressure, then spits that she's heard Ray Silverhorn is stepping into this year's contest, and challenges Melia hard, asking if she honestly thinks she'll get chosen with that weak, half-baked dancing. She hammers home that this year is make or break, because if they pull it off, they'll snatch their 5th straight win, and she snaps at Melia to think twice about what's really on the line. Pinned to the floor, Melia swallows her pride and murmurs, "Yes, mother." Melia's mother clamps a hand on her face, yanking her close with a razor-sharp, manipulative stare, and tells her to listen. She insists she's saying all of this because she cares, not because she's cruel, even as it reeks of that classic awful. Trip, she shoots Melia a warning. If she ever slips out of that dancer's spot, it's over, there's no coming back. Explaining that the moment someone slips, they just keep plummeting, no breaks, ever. Melia's eyes go wide with terror as she blurts out, "I understand that too well." The mother fires her final ultimatum with a chilling stare. Melia must never lose. Back in her room, Melia sits alone on her bed, and the weight of those words presses down like a storm cloud. She mutters about her mom, and the dancing shrine maiden title like it's burning in her chest. She knows that if they pick her for that title, and deep down she knows her mother will finally smile, then her thoughts tumble into a fancy party scene, where the guests circle in like they've just spotted someone familiar, whispering that this is the dancing shrine maiden's family. In the flashback, the guests gush over the performance, swearing it left everyone shaken to the core, while Melia's mother soaks up every last bit of attention. She boasts that she's the one who taught her daughter to dance, and the guests lap it up like it's the best show in town. He went on and on, insisting talent is something you inherit, and that your blood always ends up speaking for itself. Melia looms in the background, looking cold and detached, and then she admits that from that day forward, the sight of her mother smiling became the only thing driving her. That's the only spark that makes her smile, and it leaves her feeling trapped with no way out. Cut to Melia gripping a dark, ominous bottle in her trembling hands. The hooded figure from before cackles and says he just hopes she'll like it. He claims it's a gift from him to her, then Melia's stomach drops and pure panic hits her instantly. He asks her if he's telling her to poison her competition, and the guy starts flapping his hands, yelling she's jumping to conclusions. Then he throws the question back, who would even do something like that? He swears nobody even mentioned poison, but Melia presses him hard, then says, "Fine, what is it if it isn't a weapon?" With a menacing grin, he steps in front of the bookshelf, throws his hooded arms wide, and lays the truth bare: medicine, and it's even deadlier than poison. He tells her that if she takes a sip, her powers will finally wake up from their slumber, and he's not exaggerating when he calls it a truly wonderful thing. As he walks away, he leans in and tells her, "I'm rooting for you," like it's a promise. Right here in the present, Melia locks eyes on that bottle on her table, and his words keep echoing in her head as hesitation crawls in. She can't shake the thought that maybe she doesn't have to use something like that. The pressure and temptation are crushing her, and the hooded figure keeps hammering at Melia's mind, lurking in the dark and pressing, "Are you really sure you won't use that potion?" He lays it out for her. This is Ray Silverhorn, and she'd better remember it, because everyone already knows just how stunning and brilliant he is. He digs into her family wounds, twisting every insecurity, and sneers that she's just trying to win honor and gratitude like her mother once did. He lands the final blow to her confidence, telling her that if she messes up, her mom will be crushed and will probably nurse that grudge forever. A voice in Melia's head won't shut up. It rattles off what's on the line: her status, her honor, even where she'll end up next, and then it hammers the worst truth. Now that she's just an ordinary woman, everyone around her is about to have their world ripped apart. The voice finally seals her torment, telling her, right then and there, that it's over. Melia is shown sprawled in bed, staring with haunted eyes as she jolts awake from the nightmare. Melia snaps, yanks her hands to her head, and starts screaming, begging the voices to shut up over and over as panic takes over. She tries to steady her nerves and blurts out, full volume, that she's a dancing shrine maiden. Desperation slams into her as she screams that she'll never hand that title to anyone, and with the ominous bottle glaring on the table, she steels herself. She can't afford to lose, and she refuses to give up her spot. Gazing at her twisted reflection, her face warped in the bottle's dark liquid, as if something inside was watching back. Melia swears she'll win, no matter what, no exceptions. As the story shifts into overdrive, Melia's desperation, the nobles' crushing expectations, and the adventurers' burning hopes collide, and at last the big day is here. Lady Toruru and her mom roll into town, the dance team finally shutting down their practice, while Yui slips out again, leading her knights through the streets. The sun bursts over the horizon, and Theo yanks open the shutters with a thunderous clatter. He cranes his head toward the sky, grins at the clear horizon with not a single cloud, and blurts out, "What a gorgeous day this is." At last, the hero festival day is here, and everything is about to kick off.